Chapter 1. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. After the rain, Qingchuan village had a hint of late autumn coolness. At the entrance of the village, Gu Jiao was running after a man with sweat all over her forehead. The man was none other than the most knowledgeable scholar in town, young Master Qin. Young Master Qin was 18 years old and looked like an elegant man. Gu Jiao had been drooling over him for a long time, but she never had the chance to get close to him. This time, someone told Gu Jiao that young Master Qin had something to do in the village. Gu Jiao didn't even have time to eat and ran outside. However, young Master Qin looked like he had seen a ghost when he saw her. He ran into the carriage like he was reincarnated. Gu Jiao missed and fell to the ground. Ha 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 ha. There was a burst of laughter around. It was not the first time that Gu Jiao had done something stupid. Every time everyone thought that she could not be any more stupid, she could do something even more stupid. Who was young Master Qin? How could he like her? He should take a piss and look in the mirror. A toad wants to eat swan meat. Yes. His father is a government official, and he is a scholar. How could he like a broken shoe? Ugly monster. Little fool. A naughty child grabbed the mud on the ground and threw it at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao was so angry that she rushed at the child, but she tripped and fell into the water. At the bottom of the cold lake, the unconscious woman suddenly opened her eyes. What happened? Didn't she die when the plane hit an iceberg during a mission? How could she fall into the water? Gu Jiao turned over and swam upstream. However, she didn't know if it was because of the bad fall, but she couldn't exert any strength. When she finally swam ashore, she felt that she was about to collapse. She lay on the cold grass and wiped the water off her face. Then she was stunned. It didn't feel right. She looked at her hands. This was a pair of small hands that belonged to a 14 or 15-year-old. She was already 28 years old. How could she have such small hands? Moreover, as the queen of the Secret Service, she knew how to take care of herself. His hands were covered with frostbite, and some parts were even cracked. Soon, Gu Jiao realized that not only had her hands changed, even her clothes and figure had changed. Although she didn't want to admit it, she seemed to have really transmigrated. Gu Jiao went up to the surface of the water to see what she looked like now, but she almost fell into the water. What was that on her face? It was so disgusting. Gu Jiao scooped some water to wash off the low-quality rouge on her face. Who would have thought that she would look even uglier after washing it off? Not only was she sallow and emaciated, but there was also a large red spot on her left cheek that extended to the end of her eye. No wonder she painted herself like a ghost. She wanted to hide her ugliness. Unfortunately, this red spot was too big. No amount of makeup could cover it. In her previous life, Gu Jiao, who would explode for 3 days even if she had a small acne, suddenly had such an ugly face. She couldn't wait to die again. Speaking of which, where is this place? What dynasty is this? As soon as she finished speaking, she felt a sharp pain in her head. A memory that didn't belong to her surged up like a tidal wave. It turned out that she had transmigrated to a dynasty that didn't exist in history. This village was called Qingchuan Village, and it was located at the foot of Qingchuan Mountain. The original owner's name was also Gu Jiao. She was the only child of the third branch of the Gu family. When old Master Gu was young, he was a scholar. He had passed the imperial exam and later became the village chief of Qingchuan Village. He had been in this position for many years. Qingchuan Village was poor, so there wasn't much money to be made from being a village chief. Old Master Gu had 3 sons and an unmarried daughter. The eldest son, Gu Shunhai, had a son and a daughter with Madame Zhou. The second son, Gu Dalu, had 2 sons with Madame Lu. The first 2 branches were considered prosperous, but when it came to the third branch, it was as if they had been cursed. They couldn't give birth no matter what. Finally, they had Gu Jiao, but she was a girl. She was ugly and born stupid. In the words of the village, she was a money-losing good. No, she couldn't be sold even if they paid a high price. Ever since Gu Jiao was born, the third branch didn't have any more children. Rumors began to spread in the village that Gu Jiao was unlucky. That was why all the sons of the third branch were killed. At first, the Gu family only listened and didn't take it to heart. It wasn't until Gu Jiao's parents passed away one after another that the Gu family realized that this child was really a jinx. The Gu family tried to use their connections everywhere to get Gu Jiao married off. The problem was who would dare to marry her. Coincidentally, one day when Gu Jiao was strolling around the entrance of the village, she met a man who had fainted from hunger. She didn't know why, but she brought him back. If it was someone else who did this, they would definitely be beaten to death by their family. But first, Gu Jiao was a fool, and fools love to do stupid things. Second, they were worried that they wouldn't have a place to settle down with Gu Jiao. If they let that man marry her and live alone, wouldn't they be able to get rid of this little jinx? Gu Jiao digested the memories in her head as she walked towards a small, run-down cottage in the west of the village. That was the home she was living in now. Hiss. Halfway there, she felt a sharp pain in the back of her head. Gu Jiao raised her hand to touch it. Her hand was covered in blood. She must have hit a rock in the water and cut her head. The amount of blood was quite high, so she had to stop the bleeding as soon as possible. Gu Jiao thought as she walked into her yard. Although it was called a courtyard, it was actually just a small open space surrounded by a fence. Apart from the main room, there were a total of 2 rooms in the small hut. The slightly larger room on the east side belonged to Gu Jiao. Sigh, it wasn't even as big as the walk-in closet in her previous life. What a sad transmigration. Gu Jiao sighed as she pushed open the door. However, the moment she stepped over the threshold, she acutely sensed that there was someone in the room. Judging from the breathing, it was a man. The man hid behind the door and tried his best to hold his breath. Gu Jiao's lips curled into a cold smile. She walked into the room casually and slammed the door shut. Almost at the same time, she grabbed the man hiding behind the door and pulled him to the ground. The man was taller than she had imagined. If it was in her previous life, Gu Jiao wouldn't have been afraid of him even if he was taller. However, with this thin and weak body, she had to use her strength and her entire body to pin him down. Speak. Who are you? What are you doing in my house? As soon as she finished speaking, Gu Jiao clearly felt the man's body stiffen. She didn't know why. Gu Jiao, you're crazy. It's me. Knew him? An acquaintance committed the crime? That was even more despicable. Gu Jiao didn't let go of him. Instead, she pressed his hand on top of his head. You. Get down here. The man gritted his teeth and said coldly. Pff. Gu Jiao rolled her eyes. She had always been the one ordering people around. No one had ever ordered her around. He was sneaking around in her house, and was even more arrogant than her after being caught red-handed. If she didn't teach him a lesson, she wouldn't be Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao raised her fist, but her elbow accidentally knocked open the window behind her. The bright light shone in and landed on the man's handsome face. Gu Jiao's eyes widened. Oh my God! This man is too good-looking. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online can be found here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428226/7706778. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 2. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. As someone who was obsessed with looks, Gu Jiao had collected many handsome men in her previous life, but she had never seen one. No, it would be more accurate to say that all the handsome men added together couldn't compare to the one in front of her. This person had a very clean face, and the corners of his eyes and brows were exquisite like jade carvings. His eyes were very cold, like a bottomless cold lake. His face was sickly pale, but there was a trace of red on his face due to embarrassment, making him look even more attractive. Then there was his age. Rather than calling him a man, Gu Jiao felt that he was more suitable as a young man. Have you seen enough? Xiao Lulang asked through gritted teeth. I haven't seen enough, but... Gu Jiao looked over his body and narrowed her phoenix eyes. I'm afraid I'll crush you. After saying this, Gu Jiao began to act. Even though she had gotten up, her eyes were still glued to his body, rolling around meaningfully. Gu Jiao, you. Xiao Lulang became angry from her gaze. Gu Jiao reached out her hand with a smile. Do you want me to help you? No need. Xiao Liulang's expression was cold as he leaned to the side and stood up with the help of a chair. Then he ignored Gu Jiao and limped out of the room. Gu Jiao finally remembered who he was. It was the previous host's husband, Xiao Lulang. Xiao Lulang had been picked up by Gu Jiao. After he woke up, the Gu family asked about his situation and found that he was an orphan with nowhere to go. They made a prompt decision to force Xiao Lulang to marry Gu Jiao, saying that men and women shouldn't touch each other. Their daughter saved your life, so why don't the two of you get married to save her reputation? Although it was called marriage, it was more like marrying into the family. The shabby house they were living in was given by the Gu family, and the land they farmed was also given by the Gu family. This wasn't because the Gu family was benevolent, but because they wanted to smoothly get rid of Gu Jiao, this little jinx, and not give others a reason to gossip. When Gu Jiao got married, she didn't know that Xiao Lulang was a cripple. After she found out, she began to dislike him and turned her head to be infatuated with the town's little husband Qin. This matter was known by everyone. Xiao Lulang also heard about it, but he didn't get angry at the previous host. The villagers all felt injustice for Xiao Lulang, saying that it was a flower stuck in cow dung. Xiao Lulang was the flower and the cow dung was her. No wonder Xiao Lulang turned a blind eye to her sorry state. The relationship between the two of them was like fire and water. Gu Jiao opened the closet door and planned to change her wet clothes. Then she tore off a piece of cloth to bandage her wound. Sadly, she found that there wasn't a single clean piece of clothing in the closet. Gu Jiao was thinking about whether or not she should go next door and borrow some cloth from her cheap husband. Suddenly, she heard a delicate voice from outside the door. Big brother Xiao, are you there? Gu Jiao walked out of the room and saw a small woman wearing a large purple flowery coat. The small woman's hair was combed into a shiny bun, and she was wearing makeup. In her arms was a basket. The basket was covered with a flowery cloth, so people couldn't see what was inside. Gu Jiao quickly found this person from the previous host's memories. It was the young widow of Qingchuan village, Xuanningsiang. Xuanningsiang was their neighbor. She usually liked to go to their house when the previous host wasn't there. Occasionally, the previous host would bump into her a few times. The previous host was stupid and suffered a lot under the hands of Xuanningsiang. Oh, isn't this Ningxiang's sister-in-law? What are you doing in my house in the middle of the day? Gu Jiao walked out with wet clothes and a head full of blood. Xuanningsiang was startled. After a while, she recognized that it was Gu Jiao. She said with disappointment, Why are you here? Gu Jiao smiled and knocked on the door. This is my house. Is it strange to see me? What are you disappointed about? Xuanningsiang choked. She was obviously disappointed that she didn't see Xiao Lulang. Xuanningsiang looked at Gu Jiao again. This person was still the same person, but she looked a little strange. She was not as wooden as before. Her eyes were full of spirit. Even if her body was wet, she didn't make people feel that she was in a sorry state. Instead, there was an invisible aura around her. She must be seeing things. How could a fool change? Xuanningsiang raised her chin and said, I'm here to look for Big Brother Xiao. Gu Jiao smiled faintly. How old are you? You're still calling me Big Brother? I think it's more appropriate to call you Big Aunt. You. Xuanningsiang was angry. Of course she wasn't old. Compared to Gu Jiao, she was a few years older. Get out of the way. Xuanningsiang was too lazy to pay attention to her. What if I don't get out of the way? Gu Jiao blocked her. Xuanningsiang didn't put Gu Jiao in her eyes at all. She raised her hand and pushed towards Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao smiled coldly. She grabbed Xuanningsiang's wrist and pulled Xuanningsiang to the ground. Xuanningsiang fell flat on her face along with the basket. She even lost one of her front teeth. Ouch! Gu Jiao shook her head. This small body was really weak. If it was in her previous life, even the agents at the base would lose half their lives from her fall. But now, this shrew only lost one of her front teeth. It was really like going back to before liberation. Even her combat strength had been reset. While Gu Jiao was dissatisfied with her fighting strength, she didn't know that Xue Ningxiang was in so much pain that tears were coming out of her eyes. This little fool, when did she become so strong? Look at how she fell. Even her bones were about to shatter. At this moment, Xiao Lulang walked out with a cold expression. Xue Ningxiang saw him, as if she had seen her savior. She cried weakly. Big brother Xiao, she bullied me. Gu Jiao said unscrupulously. So what if she bullied you? If you dare to come to my house again, I'll beat you up every time I see you. Xue Ningxiang felt wronged. Big brother Xiao. Ningxiang saw. Why are you here? Xiao Lulang interrupted her. Xue Ningxiang was stunned. That, last time you helped me read the letter. I haven't thanked you properly yet. Didn't you run out of food at home? I dug up a few sweet potatoes and brought them to you. As she spoke, she went to look for the basket that fell on the ground with her. Xiao Lulang said, No need, Ningxiang saw. There's still corn flour at home. You can take it back and eat it yourself. Xue Ningxiang bit her lip. But I told you to take it back, didn't you hear me? Gu Jiao picked up the basket and fiercely stuffed it back into Xue Ningxiang's arms. Xue Ningxiang was angry. Do you want to eat my fist again? Gu Jiao sneered. Xue Ningxiang was afraid that this fool would go crazy again. She looked at Xiao Lulang, hoping that Xiao Lulang would do something. However, she saw that Xiao Lulang didn't have any intention of sticking up for her. She angrily stomped her feet and left with the basket. Gu Jiao looked at her cheap husband with a smile. I didn't know that a little cripple like you would be so popular with women. Xiao Lulang glanced at Gu Jiao indifferently, then went back to his house with his crutch. Hiss! Her wound hurt again. Gu Jiao held her head and went back to her house. She sat on a stool and touched her wound. It was a big cut. Although it wasn't too deep, if it wasn't disinfected in time, it would most likely get infected. But this was ancient times. Where would she get those disinfectants? If only my medicine box was still here. Just as this thought flashed through her mind, Gu Jiao felt a sharp pain in her head. This time, it was so intense that she fainted. When she woke up, she saw that there was an extra box on the table in front of her. Digression. The new novel will be the first to be released. Miracle Doctor will be released after it ends. Everyone, remember to collect it. The latest chapter of this novel is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428226/770-38925. HTML Genius will remember this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 3. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. The box wasn't big and looked very shabby, as if it had been knocked down hard somewhere. It was uneven and the paint was peeling off. Those who didn't know would think that it was picked up from a garbage dump. However, it was this small shabby box that made Gu Jiao's heart feel infinitely familiar. Gu Jiao opened the box in a daze and saw the medicine inside. Her brain immediately buzzed. It can't be right? Her medicine box. Why is it here? I'm not dreaming, right? Gu Jiao pinched herself. It really hurts. It's not a dream. The box was also real, and the medicinal herbs inside were all genuine goods at a fair price. Gu Jiao remembered that the medicine box was by her side when the plane accident happened. Could it be because of this that it came here too? But why is it so shabby? Where's the blinding gold? In the past, when the small medicine box was still shining with golden light, Gu Jiao found it ugly. Now that it had become tattered, Gu Jiao felt that it was even uglier. However, Gu Jiao couldn't resist the warm feeling in her heart. She couldn't help but hug the box tightly in her arms. I won't think you're ugly anymore. I'll treat you well in the future. Gu Jiao wiped the small medicine box. Fortunately, it was only broken on the outside, and the things inside were not damaged. Gu Jiao took a few pieces of gauze and a bottle of saline from the medicine box. She disinfected the wound and applied an antibacterial ointment to herself. Then she took 2 anti-inflammatory pills. She thought that she would need to bandage the wound, but later found that it wasn't necessary. After treating the wound, Gu Jiao was a little hungry. She put the medicine box in the cabinet and planned to go to the kitchen to find something to eat. But before that, she needed to change into clean and dry clothes. Gu Jiao hesitated for a moment. She walked through the living room and knocked on Xiao Liulang's door. What is it? Xiao Liulang's cold voice came from the room. Gu Jiao said, I want to borrow your clothes. The clothes in the wardrobe haven't been washed. I don't have anything to change into. Xiao Liulang did not respond for a long time. Just when Gu Jiao thought that Xiao Liulang would not lend her his clothes, the door opened and Xiao Liulang handed her a set of dry gowns. The material of the gown was not very good, and the color was a little old, but it was very clean. If it was in her previous life, Gu Jiao would never wear a man's clothes. However, the situation was more important than her. If she didn't wear this, would she have to wear the moldy clothes in her wardrobe? After changing her clothes, Gu Jiao washed her dirty clothes and went to the kitchen. The kitchen was very clean. Xiao Liulang must have cleaned it. The rice jar was empty, but as Xiao Liulang said, there was still half a jar of cornmeal. Not only that, Gu Jiao also found 2 eggs and a handful of spring onions in the cupboard. Gu Jiao took out the eggs and made 2 cornmeal omelets. She sprinkled the chopped spring onions and left a little bit of flour paste. She had her cook a small pot of cornmeal soup. Gu Jiao brought the cooked food to the living room. Xiao Liulang's door was not closed. In her memory, the 2 of them always ate separately. When Xiao Liulang cooked, he would leave a bowl in the pot for the original owner. However, the original owner would eat at the Gu family's house most of the time. Gu Jiao paused, but still knocked on Xiao Liulang's door. What is it? Xiao Liulang's cold voice came from the room. Gu Jiao said, I made dinner. Do you want to eat together? Gu Jiao rarely cooked. Even if she did, she wouldn't cook for him. Therefore, he planned to wait for Gu Jiao to come out before cooking for himself. Xiao Liulang looked at the closed door suspiciously. I'm not eating. I'll eat first. Gu Jiao wanted to wait for him, but she was so hungry that her chest was sticking to her back. She almost fainted on the ground. She had to replenish her energy as soon as possible. Gu Jiao had just sat down and hadn't picked up her chopsticks when the door creaked open. Xiao Liulang walked out. Xiao Liulang wasn't here to eat. But when his eyes inadvertently fell on Gu Jiao, he suddenly paused. When he gave Gu Jiao a robe, he gave her one that he couldn't wear. But it was still too big for Gu Jiao. Her thin body made the robe look empty and she looked a bit clumsy. It was probably to make it easier for her to work. Her hair and sleeves were rolled up, revealing a white and slender neck. Her wrists were very thin. She didn't have her usual arrogance. She just sat there quietly and seriously ate the food in her bowl. It didn't seem like her. Xiao Liulang's eyes paused for a moment, but in the end he coldly looked away. At this time Gu Jiao found him and said to him, You're here. Sit down and eat. Gu Jiao had another set of chopsticks in front of her. It could be seen that she wasn't just randomly shouting. She really made food for Xiao Liulang. However, Xiao Liulang didn't move. Gu Jiao understood what he was worried about. The previous host didn't have a good relationship with him, so if she suddenly made food for him, it would make people suspicious. But Gu Jiao couldn't explain that she wasn't the same person as before. Thinking about it, Gu Jiao said, We don't have much firewood left. If we don't eat now, we'll have to waste more firewood. It was unknown if it was because these words touched Xiao Liulang, but Xiao Liulang finally sat down across from her. When the previous host first met Xiao Liulang, she had been stunned by his appearance, otherwise she wouldn't have picked him up. The previous host's dislike of Xiao Lulang was because of his legs, but Gu Jiao didn't think so. The previous host was stupid, but Gu Jiao wasn't stupid. There were some things that the previous host couldn't see through, but Gu Jiao could understand it after looking through her memories. Xiao Lulang was deliberately angering the previous host. He didn't want to consummate with the previous host, and didn't want the previous host to get close to him. Actually, it was good that she also had the same idea. Don't look at how she teased him. If she really wanted to do something with him, she wouldn't be able to do it. Gu Jiao quickly finished eating. She took her bowl and chopsticks to the kitchen and carried a basket out. Xiao Lulang didn't ask her what she was going to do, and she didn't say anything. It was always like this between them. Who would have thought that when Gu Jiao walked to the door, she would suddenly turn around and say, "I didn't lie to you just now. The firewood really is almost gone. Before it gets dark, I'll go to the back mountain to chop some firewood. It might rain later, so if I don't come back, remember to put away your clothes." Xiao Lulang deeply looked at her. The previous Gu Jiao wouldn't see the change in the weather, and wouldn't tell him where she was going. After Gu Jiao went out, there was only Xiao Lulang left in the room and the table of food that he didn't know if he could eat. Their family was poor, so even if Xiao Lulang didn't like Gu Jiao, he wouldn't refuse food. He knit his brows, picked up his chopsticks, and picked up a piece of green onion egg pancake. Digression. It's starting to update. Is everyone still there? The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896422826/724266095. HTML Genius will remember this site's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 4. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Jiao went out to chop firewood. On one hand, she was really lacking firewood. On the other hand, she wanted to go into the mountains to find something to fill her stomach. Although her family wasn't so poor that they couldn't eat, it wasn't far off. If Xiao Lulang ate alone, he might be able to last a few days, but if she added in, it would be a bit difficult. It was now late autumn and the sky was clear and there were no clouds for thousands of miles. It wasn't just because there was no pollution. Gu Jiao felt that the sky above her was especially blue. It was a blue that she had never seen before. The air was also very fresh and it made her feel relaxed. She inexplicably came here. She didn't know if those lunatics at the research institute would miss her. They would probably be gritting their teeth and blaming her for suddenly disappearing without giving them the latest research results. But on the surface, she was a medical doctor from M University, but she was actually a special agent. She entered the organization when she was 8 years old, and everything after that was just a cover for her true identity. Of course, she didn't plan on licking blood from the blade for the rest of her life. She had an agreement with the organization that this would be her last order, and she would leave after finishing it. Unexpectedly, the plane had an accident. Now that she thought about it, the plane crash was too much of a coincidence. But there was no point in talking about it now. She was already dead, and there was no way she could go back and take revenge. There should be no one who would feel sad about her death. Her parents divorced when she was 8 years old. Then they formed their own families and had new children. She had always been extra. In a sense, her fate was quite similar to that of the original owner. The previous host's parents passed away early, so the previous host was extra in the Gu family. Now that the previous host was dead, no one would feel sad for her. Gu Jiao gave a self-deprecating smile as her eyebrows turned cold. Because she was worried that it would rain, Gu Jiao didn't go too deep into the forest. But even so, she still found a lot of good things. There were fungi, mushrooms, and wild wood ears growing on tree stumps. The wood ears were fat and thick, almost covering half of the tree stump. Gu Jiao picked the big ones. This area had obviously been cut down by the villagers. There were many tree stumps like this, and there were also many wood ears growing here. Gu Jiao picked them one by one, and soon the basket was heavy. Seeing that she was almost done, Gu Jiao stopped in time. She chopped some firewood and tied the firewood to the basket with a rope. She carried the basket on her back and prepared to go down the mountain. However, just as Gu Jiao turned around, she suddenly felt a squelch under her feet, as if she had stepped on something. Then she heard a muffled groan. It was very soft and weak. She blinked her eyes and slowly moved her legs away. I can't be that unlucky. She took a deep breath and looked down. She saw an old man with a white beard who had fainted from being stepped on by her. Gu Jiao. No, how could someone be lying in the gutter? Was it a coincidence that she stepped on it? Gu Jiao's conscience was very good, so she stepped over him. However, in less than 2 seconds, Gu Jiao came back expressionlessly. Let me say this first. I didn't save you out of conscience. Cluck cluck cluck. In a tightly tied cloth bag beside the old man, a pheasant flapped its wings and cried out. Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows and glanced at the cloth bag casually. The cloth bag stopped moving instantly. Then, she looked at the old man with a white beard in front of her. There was a big footprint left by Gu Jiao on his face, and it was very horrible to look at. Looking at his clothes, he looked like an ordinary villager. However, there was an indescribable aura of dignity between his eyebrows. Gu Jiao put down the firewood on her back and started to take his pulse. She studied Western medicine in school, but later on, in order to carry out a very special mission, she hid in the family of a national healer for 5 years, under the pretext of learning from him. Judging from his pulse, there was no illness in his body. Gu Jiao speculated that he had caught a cold and suddenly had a high fever. He accidentally fell into the gutter and dislocated his left arm. Gu Jiao took out her small medicine box from the basket on her back and put an ice pack on his forehead. Then Gu Jiao reattached his arm, chopped a piece of firewood, tore off his clothes and fixed his arm. After doing all this, Gu Jiao took his temperature again and found that it was still high, so she injected him with a fever-reducing injection. Not far away, there was a small grass shed for the villagers to rest in. Gu Jiao moved him there. The fever was gone and he was about to wake up. So Gu Jiao got up and went down the mountain. Before leaving, Gu Jiao left her umbrella with him. I won't treat people for free. After saying this, he took the bag of pheasants with him. Gu Jiao had just reached home when the rain started to fall, and it soon became a torrential downpour. The mountains were far away, and the village's grass shed was all shrouded in the rain. Gu Jiao went directly to the kitchen. Xiao Lulang had already cleaned up the bowls and chopsticks, wiped the stove, and put away his clothes. Gu Jiao put down the firewood in the cloth bag, opened the cupboard and looked, and wondered, "You finished eating?" She had left quite a lot. She didn't expect that the boy, who looked so thin, to have such a big appetite. Was he really at the age of puberty? Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows and found a cage to put the pheasants in. Gu Jiao separated the small firewood and the big firewood, and picked out the ones that needed to be chopped. When she finished chopping the firewood, it was already evening. The rain hadn't stopped, and the house was wet and cold. She found a brazier, and planned to light a fire for herself. Suddenly thinking of something, she walked in front of Xiao Liulang's room, and gently knocked on his door. "Do you want to warm up?" she asked softly. There was no response from the room. She called out again, but there was still no response. Gu Jiao saw that the door was ajar, so she gently pushed it open and looked inside. She saw that under the dim light of the oil lamp, the thin figure had already fallen asleep on the old table. He was also holding an unfinished book in his hand. The book was clearly yellow, and the cover was cracked. It was covered with oil paper. It was very hard for a scholar in the countryside, especially for someone like Xiao Lulang. He had been oppressed by the Gu family and the original host for a long time, so he couldn't even go to a private school. He had to rely on himself to learn. Gu Jiao hesitated, and then quietly walked over. She took a cotton coat from the cupboard and put it on him. Xiao Lulang woke up in the middle of the night. He hadn't slept well for the past few days, so he didn't think that he would fall asleep on the table. When he opened his eyes, he found that there was an extra cotton coat on him. His brows furrowed as a trace of vigilance flashed in his eyes. He frowned as he looked at the book in his hand. Suddenly he heard a crackling sound. He turned his head and saw that there was a brazier on the ground. The cold room was suddenly warmed by the light of the fire. Xiao Liulong's eyes fell on the brazier as he revealed a thoughtful expression. There was only one brazier in the house. After giving it to Xiao Lulang, Gu Jiao didn't have one. Gu Jiao hid the medicine box and quickly crawled under the blankets, wrapping herself up like a small cocoon. Perhaps it was because she had made several trips during the day, but her small body was very tired. Even though it was a bit cold, she quickly fell asleep. Gu Jiao hadn't dreamed for many years, but tonight, she had a dream. She dreamed that a doctor came to town and Xiao Lulang went to him to treat his leg. In the end, the doctor's pharmacy had a medical dispute and many people were injured. Xiao Lulang was lame in one leg and couldn't run as fast as others. In an instant, his other leg was injured. Although this injury didn't take Xiao Liulong's life, it caused him to miss the exam in 3 days. Digression. Jiao Jiao smiley. Grandpa, how do you feel? A certain big shot, embarrassed. My butt hurts. Jiao Jiao smiley een. That's because I gave you an injection to reduce your fever. What else? A certain big shot serious. My arm hurts. Jiao Jiao smiley he. That's because you fell and dislocated your shoulder. Anything else? A certain big shot Shanine. My face hurts. Jiao Jiao. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/723777622. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 5. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online are all available here. In her previous life, she often heard the elderly say that if you had a dream at night, you would forget everything when you turned over in the morning. However, Gu Jiao didn't know how many times she had turned over, but when she woke up, the details of the dream were still clear in her mind. However, it was just a dream, so Gu Jiao didn't really take it to heart. The sky was just beginning to brighten, and there were a few stars in the sky. It seemed like today would be a sunny day. Gu Jiao couldn't remember the last time she woke up so early. Although she worked in the research institute in her previous life, those who knew her well knew that she was a complete night owl. Most of her research and surgeries were scheduled in the afternoon. As for the missions given to her by the organization, she rarely had to work in the morning and rest in the morning. Gu Jiao was wearing her own clothes today. Xiao Lulang probably didn't know that after Gu Jiao brought the brazier into his room last night, she had been drying her clothes around the brazier for a while. However, her movements were very light, so she didn't wake Xiao Lulang up. Gu Jiao went to the backyard to get some water to wash up. Xiao Liulang's door was open, but he was no longer in the room. She thought that she had woken up early, but unexpectedly, someone had woken up even earlier than her. Gu Jiao walked around the house, but there was no sign of Xiao Lulang. She only noticed that a bucket beside the water tank was missing. Gu Jiao looked at the half-empty water tank, rubbed her chin, and didn't say anything. The bolt on the front door was still locked. Xiao Lulang had left the kitchen through the back door, and locked it from the outside. This way, outsiders couldn't come in as they pleased. However, if Gu Jiao wanted to go out, she could open the front door and walk out. After Gu Jiao washed up, she went back to her room to apply some ointment and take some anti-inflammatory medicine. The small medicine box was filled with top-notch medicines from the research institute. Needless to say, the effects of the medicine were obvious. The wound that was still bloody yesterday almost didn't feel any pain today. Xiao Lulang hadn't returned yet, so Gu Jiao distributed the last bit of cornmeal. This was the last of their food reserves. Gu Jiao had to think of a way to sell the pheasants she brought back to town in exchange for some food for her family. However, the original owner had never left the village, so Gu Jiao didn't know how to get to the town. It would take some time for him to wake up. Gu Jiao took a broom and swept the backyard, the central room, and her own room. Xiao Lulang was not there, so she did not enter his room. Yesterday's clothes were only half washed, and there were still a few pieces in the wardrobe. Gu Jiao carried them all out and put them in the wooden basin in the backyard. There were soap pods in this dynasty. The original owner had seen them on a peddler's stretcher, but the villagers were poor and couldn't afford them. They used soap pods picked from trees. Gu Jiao smashed the soap pods and spread them evenly on the clothes. She kept hitting them with a wooden stick until a fragrant foam came out. Then she began to scrub them repeatedly. The soap pod's ability to remove dirt was not as good as imagined, but Gu Jiao's obsession with washing the clothes was very strong. Finally, Gu Jiao rubbed a small hole in the doo-doo. Gu Jiao. When Gu Jiao finished washing the clothes, the half tub of water was almost used up. At this time, the noodles had woken up. Gu Jiao made some cornmeal buns and steamed them in the pot. Xiao Lulang still hadn't returned. There were 2 wells in the village. The old well was at the end of the village and was closer to them, but it was almost dry. Gu Jiao guessed that Xiao Lulang would go to the new well at the entrance of the village to fetch water. That place was only a few dozen steps away from where Gu Jiao had fallen into the water yesterday. A normal person would be able to make a round trip in less than 15 minutes. Xiao Liulang's legs were inconvenient, and he had to carry a bucket of water. Gu Jiao calculated that he would have returned in 30 minutes. Gu Jiao stood in front of the stove and looked in the direction of the front door. In the end, she opened the door and went out. Gu Jiao found Xiao Lulang behind a large locust tree near the old well. Xiao Lulang was surrounded by several fierce villains. The bucket of water had fallen to the ground, and the well water was splashed all over the ground. The villains each had 2 chicken feathers on their heads. Were they the ancient version of punks? Gu Jiao recognized that this group of villains were not only from the village, but also from the neighboring villages. They committed all kinds of crimes all day long. They didn't commit murder or arson, but they did bring disaster to their neighbors. Xiao Liulang's crutch was taken away by a little villain. The villain was young, and from the side of his face he looked to be around 13 or 14 years old. However, he was very arrogant. He pushed Xiao Lulang to the ground and pointed his crutch at Xiao Liulang's face. "How many times have I warned you? You're not allowed to appear in front of me again. Are you King deaf? Hurry up and get out of Qingchuan village for me." The little villain was clearly still in the puberty stage, and his voice was somewhat familiar. The little villain's crutch came down toward Xiao Lulang. Gu Jiao didn't have time to think carefully. She took 2 or 3 steps forward, raised her hand to block Xiao Lulang, and kicked the little villain's butt. "Io. Who the *CK dares to kick me?" The little villain was kicked like a dog eating shit. He turned his head and was about to curse, but he suddenly choked. Gu Jiao didn't care if he choked or not. She went forward and took the crutch from his hand. She held his hand behind his back and strangled the crutch to his neck. The little villain was very uncomfortable from being strangled. He immediately shouted, "Sister! Sister! What are you doing?" Gu Jiao was stunned. The villains on the side saw that their boss was being bullied, and they all rushed towards Gu Jiao. The little villain angrily shouted, "All of you King, stop for me. This is my sister." The villains were stunned. Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao remembered who this little villain was. He was the youngest son of the Gu family's second branch, Gu Xiaoshan. Gu Xiaoshan was 13 years old this year. He was the youngest of the Gu family's grandchildren, and the only one who was truly close to the original owner. He didn't dislike the original owner for being a fool, nor did he dislike the original owner for being ugly. The reason was that Gu Xiaoshan was too much of a fool. He wasn't willing to study properly and fooled around all day. His brothers and sisters always scolded him, and his parents always beat him. Only the original owner would foolishly hold his hand and use the candy she saved to coax him. Xiaoshan knew how to fight. Xiaoshan was really strong. Gu Xiaoshan knew that Gu Jiao was like this because she was stupid, But he wasn't a smart person. He felt that whoever was good to him, he would be good to them. Sister, sister, I'm in pain. Gu Xiaoshan cried out in grievance. Gu Jiao let go of him. She put her right hand behind her back and used her left hand to pull him up. She softly asked, "Why are you bullying your brother-in-law?" Brother-in-law? Gu Xiaoshan suspected that he had misheard. Didn't you tell me to beat him? Me? Gu Jiao was confused. That's right. Gu Xiaoshan looked at Xiao Lulang and lowered his voice. You told me that you didn't want this little cripple anymore. You told me to drive him away so you could be with little husband Qin. He thought that his voice wasn't loud, but everyone present heard it. Xiao Liulang's eyes were cold. The villains didn't want to watch. Gu Xiaoshan said, Sister, you can't have forgotten, right? You told me that yourself. Gu Xiaoshan wouldn't lie to her. It seemed like the original owner really did say something like this. But the original owner didn't remember it. But her brother didn't forget a single word. I just casually said it. You took it seriously? Gu Jiao's teeth hurt. Then what do we do now? Gu Xiaoshan realized that he had done something wrong. He stood there with his head down like a little quail. Digression. Labor is the most glorious. Happy holidays. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428226/723233660. HTML Genius memorized this site's address. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 6. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. Gu Jiao bent down and picked up the crutch on the ground with her left hand. She walked over to Xiao Lulang and handed it to him. Xiao Lulang calmly took the crutch and stood up. He went to pick up the bucket on the ground. You go. Gu Jiao said to Gu Xiaoshan. Oh. Gu Xiaoshan eagerly walked over and picked up the bucket before Xiao Lulang. Go get water. Gu Jiao said to Gu Xiaoshan. Go get water. Gu Xiaoshan said to one of his thugs. The thug's mouth twitched and he grabbed the bucket to get water. Xiao Lulang walked back expressionlessly. He didn't say a word the whole time. Gu Xiaoshan waited until he was far away before he spoke again. Sister, what's going on? You don't hate him anymore? And sister, how did you become so strong? What was that move just now? Do it for me one more time. I'll do it again later. Gu Jiao glared daggers at him. Gu Xiaoshan resentfully shut his mouth. Boss, the water is here. The thug carried a bucket full of water and walked over quickly. Hurry up and bring it back to my sister. Cough. Under Gu Jiao's oppressive gaze, Gu Xiaoshan took the bucket. Okay, give it to me. You guys can leave. Then we'll go to the neighboring village to fight. Fight what? Get lost. Get lost. The thugs left. Gu Xiaoshan looked at Gu Jiao with a smile. Sister, don't be angry. If you don't hate him, I won't bully him anymore. Do you often bully him? Gu Jiao asked. Gu Xiaoshan scratched his head. Not often. Just 3 or 4 times a month. 5, 6, 7, 8 times? The more they talked, the softer Gu Xiaoshuan's voice became. He had a bad memory and did not even know how many times he had bullied her. Let's go back, Gu Jiao said. Hey. Gu Xiaoshan giggled and followed behind Gu Jiao with a bucket of water. Suddenly he stopped in his tracks. His gaze fell on Gu Jiao's stiff right arm. Sis, is your arm injured? I'm fine, Gu Jiao said. You're fine? You're bleeding. Gu Xiaoshan put down the bucket of water and grabbed Gu Jiao's arm. He pulled up her sleeve and saw that her right wrist was covered in blood. Did I hit you with the stick just now? I already said I'm fine. Gu Jiao pulled her hand back. Also, what happened to your head? I hit it before I fell into the water. The wound was hidden in her hair. How could this brat's eyes be so sharp? Gu Xiaoshan wanted to ask more, but Gu Jiao had already walked away without looking back. Hey, sis, wait for me. When Gu Xiaoshan followed Gu Jiao home, he was surprised to see a young scholar at the door. The other party was wearing a long gown. He looked gentle and refined, but there was a hint of arrogance between his eyebrows. Who are you? What are you doing at my sister's house? Gu Xiaoshan asked with his hands on his hips. The other party didn't even look at Gu Xiaoshan. He only coldly stared at Gu Jiao. Did you let someone bully Brother Xiao again? You evil woman! You dare to insult my sister? Gu Xiaoshan put down the bucket of water and raised his fist to punch that person. Even though he was only 13, he was really good at fighting. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become the #1 villain in the area. It was impossible for a weak scholar to be his opponent. Xiaoshan. Gu Jiao called out to him. At almost the same time, Xiao Lulang also changed his clothes and came out of the room. My classmate. Xiao Lulang said to Gu Jiao and her brother. His classmate disdainfully snorted and walked over to support Xiao Lulang. He also took the heavy cloth bag from his hands. Let's go. Gu Xiaoshan saw that Xiao Lulang had brought the cloth bag and couldn't help but be surprised. Where are you going? Could it be that he was scared of him and really wanted to leave? His classmate didn't want to talk to Gu Xiaoshan. Gu Jiao didn't ask and silently walked into the room. When she passed by Xiao Lulang glanced at her slightly stiff right hand. Gu Jiao used her sleeve to wrap her hand so that the blood flowing down her wrist couldn't be seen. But when she entered the room, she suddenly heard Xiao Liulang's cold voice behind her. I'm going to town. Treating your leg? Gu Jiao subconsciously asked. Xiao Lulang was a little surprised. For some reason, Gu Jiao thought of that dream. She really didn't believe it, but... Do you have an exam in 3 days? Gu Jiao looked at him. Xiao Liulang's eyes flashed with even more surprise, but he still nodded. His classmate said in an angry voice. Why are you telling her this? Be careful that she won't let you go. Did you forget that you missed the exam last time because of her? And your leg, if she didn't lock you up at home, you wouldn't have missed Dr. Zhang. Gu Jiao turned to look at Gu Xiaoshan. She didn't remember these things. Gu Xiaoshan pointed at his nose and said, Do you know how to speak? What do you mean my sister won't let him go? My sister is sick and he just got married, so how could he leave my sister behind? Speaking of this, Gu Jiao had an impression. Not long after she got married, the original owner did get sick, but it wasn't a real illness, it was just an act. This was because someone told her that Xiao Lulang left and wouldn't come back. She would be a young widow like Xuaningxiang. She didn't want to be a young widow, so she locked Xiao Lulang up. What she didn't know was that Xiao Lulang missed the exam half a year ago because of this, as well as the only chance to treat his leg. Gu Jiao looked at Xiao Liulang's leg. That actually... Brother Xiao, let's go. The carriage is still waiting at the entrance of the village. His classmate interrupted Gu Jiao and pulled Xiao Lulang towards the entrance of the village without looking back. I want to eat osmanthus cake. Gu Jiao suddenly walked out and looked at Xiao Lulang. Li Ji's osmanthus cake. I only eat it. If you don't buy it for me, I won't let you in. I'll even burn your books. Evil woman. His classmate gritted his teeth and helped Xiao Lulang sit in an old carriage at the entrance of the village. Brother Xiao, don't listen to her. Li Ji is an old shop and their osmanthus cake is hard to buy. By the time you buy it, Dr. Zhang will have already left. He is a doctor from the capital and is better than the doctors in town. Only he can treat your leg. You can't be dragged down by that evil woman. That's my sister, ordering her around like this. Gu Xiaoshan gave Gu Jiao a thumbs up. Gu Jiao held her forehead. Do you know where the market is? Gu Xiaoshan nodded. I know. Why are you asking this, sister? Do you want to go? What are you going to do? Sell chickens. Chickens? Sister, where did you get chickens? Pheasants. She didn't say that she forced herself to pay for the treatment. Gu Xiaoshan naturally thought that his sister caught them herself. Sister, I found that you have changed, you have become better than before. It's not that she is not stupid, she is better than before. In Gu Xiaoshuan's heart, He never treated the original owner as a fool. Gu Xiaoshan told her the direction of the market. The market and the medical center were both in the town, but one was in the west and the other was in the east. Gu Xiaoshan insisted on going with her, but Gu Jiao refused. The Gu family didn't like Gu Xiaoshan and Gu Jiao being too close. They said that Gu Jiao was stupid and would make him stupid. Gu Jiao went back to her room and opened the small medicine box. She took out iodophor to clean the wound and applied some antibacterial ointment. She was hungry. Gu Jiao went to the kitchen. Digression. Leave a paw print. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428226/722763885. HTML Genius remembered the website address www.zhhbqg.com. Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 7. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. After Xiao Lulang arrived in town, he was immediately dragged to the clinic by his classmate. There was a long line outside the clinic, all of them looking for that godly doctor. The two of them stood at the end of the line. His classmate stood on his tiptoes to look. "It's not too late, we should be able to get in line." "I'll give you the fare later," Xiao Lulang said. His classmate patted his chest. "You and I are from the same school in town, why are you being so polite?" "Oh right, are you hungry?" He went out in a hurry and didn't eat anything. Xiao Lulang didn't eat either. He took out a clean little bag from his wide sleeve and opened it to reveal 3 beautiful cornmeal steamed buns. Where did these steamed buns come from? Xiao Lulang felt that these steamed buns were a bit familiar. His classmate said, "I took them from your stove, they were just steamed when I went." Xiao Lulang frowned. "How many did you leave?" His classmate said strangely, "Isn't there a total of 3? You made the steamed buns yourself, don't you remember?" Xiao Lulang pursed his lips and didn't say anything. After a while he said, "Why didn't you leave one for her?" His classmate was startled. "You mean that evil woman? Why leave one for her? Hasn't she harmed you enough? Moreover, she doesn't eat the food you make." His classmate picked up a steamed bun and took a bite, his eyes instantly widening. "Brother Xiao, why are the steamed buns you made today so delicious?" Xiao Lulang walked out of the line. His classmate was stunned. "Brother Xiao, where are you going? It's almost your turn." Xiao Lulang didn't say anything and just walked forward with his head lowered. His classmate looked at the long line that almost reached the alley and anxiously stamped his feet. He said to the woman behind him, "Auntie, we're going to the toilet, we'll be right back." He caught up to Xiao Lulang. "What are you doing?" "Osmanthus cake," Xiao Lulang said as he walked through the alley and came to Li Ji's shop. Li Ji was a century-old shop. The number of people lining up here was no less than that of the medical hall. His classmate became anxious. "Are you crazy? He really bought osmanthus cake for that evil woman. Do you know that Dr. Zhang only sees patients for half a day? By the time you buy the osmanthus cake, it will be too late." Xiao Lulang was a stubborn person. Once he decided on something, no one could change his mind. 2 hours later, Xiao Lulang bought Li Ji's osmanthus cake. "I hope Dr. Zhang hasn't left yet." His classmate pulled Xiao Lulang to the clinic. However, when they arrived at the entrance of the clinic, they found that the long queue had disappeared. There was only a group of people who were watching the fun, as well as a group of dignified soldiers. His classmate looked at the middle-aged man and asked, "Uncle, did something happen here? Why are all the patients gone?" The middle-aged man said, "Just now, a lunatic rushed into the clinic and said that the doctor in the clinic had killed his wife. He took a knife and slashed randomly. The people inside were all injured. Did you see the auntie at the entrance?" She was the last one to go in. Just as she entered, that lunatic came. She was lucky and ran out, but she also fell and broke her head. Wasn't that auntie the one who was behind them in the queue? If they hadn't left, then the last one to go in would have been Xiao Lulang. With Xiao Liulang's legs, there was no way he could have run out. Then he was most likely one of the people who had been slashed. On the way back, the two of them didn't say a word. The sky gradually darkened, and the carriage moved along the quiet path, the wheels creaking. At this time, the carriages in town were unwilling to go to the countryside. They spent 20 copper coins to rent a mule cart. It didn't have a carriage, only a simple black canopy that leaked air from the front and back. The two of them were so cold that their hands and feet were stiff. Suddenly, a thin and weak figure entered Xiao Liulang's line of sight. Xiao Liulang's gaze froze. This was a fork in the road. In front was the road back to the village. In the west was the road to the market. On the small path from the market, Gu Jiao was carrying a heavy basket and was panting as she walked. The afterglow of the setting sun had already scattered. She was covered in the last bit of twilight. Her bones were thin. She raised her hand to wipe her sweat, revealing the bandage on her wrist. There were traces of blood on the bandage. "Stop the carriage," Xiao Lulang said. The carriage driver stopped the carriage. "Why do we have to stop the carriage?" his classmate asked in confusion. Then he saw Gu Jiao walking over on foot. Gu Jiao didn't notice them and treated it as an ordinary mule cart. She didn't look up. She turned around and walked past the carriage. "Come up," Xiao Lulang opened his mouth to say. Gu Jiao turned her head and looked at Xiao Lulang in astonishment. Sitting next to Xiao Lulang was the classmate from the day before. His classmate still had a face of disgust, but he didn't say anything like not allowing Xiao Lulang to talk to him. "Come up," Xiao Lulang said again in a cold voice. He was clearly a 16 or 17-year-old youth, but he had a calmness and aura that didn't belong to his age. Gu Jiao hesitated for a moment before going up. She sat across from Xiao Lulang and put the basket on her back on the ground. Xiao Lulang looked at the basket and said, "You went to the market?" Gu Jiao nodded. "Yes, I went to sell 2 chickens and bought some rice and flour." She also did some other things. Xiao Lulang looked at her deeply as if he saw something, but he didn't say a word. His classmate looked at Gu Jiao with a strange expression. This stupid woman also knew how to do business? Gu Jiao didn't seem to notice his gaze and asked Xiao Lulang, "What about you? Did you see the doctor in town today? You still want to talk about it? It's all your fault. If you didn't want to eat osmanthus cake, how could we miss Dr. Zhang's consultation?" His classmate wouldn't tell her that because he went to buy osmanthus cake for her, Brother Xiao avoided a disaster. "That is really regretful." Gu Jiao lowered her eyes and muttered. She said regretful words, but it made people feel that she didn't regret it at all. Could it be that she already knew about the medical center? Impossible. With her personality, how could she be so calm after knowing that she accidentally saved Brother Xiao? Last time, she saved Brother Xiao and forced him to marry her. If she saved him again, wouldn't she go to heaven? His classmate sneered. "I ate the osmanthus cake. I won't let you off so easily," Gu Jiao calmly said. "Oh." His classmate's punch landed on cotton. After that, they didn't say anything else. A very tasteful carriage came towards them. His classmate's mind shook and he sat up straight. "Quickly look. That's the principal's carriage." "What principal?" Gu Jiao asked. His classmate said, "Tianxiang Academy's principal. Brother Xiao is going to take the exam in 3 days. The principal is from the capital, and was once the head of the capital's 4 great scholars. He's very knowledgeable. His results from 20 years ago have never been surpassed by anyone. Getting a word of advice from him is better than studying for 10 years. If I could become his disciple, how good would that be? But I heard that the principal hasn't accepted any disciples for many years. I've been in the academy for half a year, and haven't even seen the principal's face." His classmate chattered on. He was so excited that he forgot that he was talking to the person he hated the most. In the carriage, the principal, who was dressed in a white uniform, sat respectfully at the side. In the main seat was an old man dressed in cotton clothes. The old man's left arm was wrapped in bandages, and he held a small broken umbrella in his arms. His face was faintly visible with a large footprint from who knows where. This appearance made the principal speechless. He also didn't know and he didn't dare to ask. He respectfully bowed. Why did you suddenly leave the mountain? Why didn't you tell me so that I could send someone to pick you up? Digression. Good morning, carrot. Be the old man in chapter 04. Do you still remember? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/7223233. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 8. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that cannot be found on the internet are all available here. The roads in the village were not easy to travel on, especially the road leading to Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao's house. There were too many potholes and it was easy for the wheels to get stuck. The mule carriage stopped at the entrance of the village. Brother Xiao. His classmate jumped off the carriage and helped Xiao Lulang down. He also helped Xiao Lulang down with his bag. After Xiao Lulang stood still, he turned around and looked at Gu Jiao. He saw Gu Jiao lightly jump off the carriage and carry the basket on her back. Xiao Lulang looked away and said to his classmate, "You can go back. You don't need to send me off." It was indeed late, and the carriage driver was a bit impatient. His classmate said, "Okay, I'm leaving. Don't forget about the exam in 3 days. The academy is not on holiday that day, so I won't come to pick you up. Remember to go." Xiao Lulang lightly nodded and took the bag. The road at night was not easy to travel, and they did not have a lantern. Gu Jiao did not move and silently waited for Xiao Lulang. His classmate coldly glanced at her and pulled Xiao Lulang away. He whispered, "Brother Xiao, do well in the exam in 3 days. If you pass, you will be able to live in the academy. You won't be bullied by that evil woman anymore. You don't need to worry about the treatment of your legs. I will continue to inquire about Dr. Zhang. Oh, also eat the osmanthus cake yourself. Don't let that evil woman take advantage of it." Gu Jiao was sweating when she came back from the market with the basket on her back. But it was all dried on the mule carriage. Her red face was now pale from the cold. It was a bit eye-catching under the moonlight. Xiao Lulang glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. His classmate still wanted to say a few more words, but he was interrupted by Xiao Lulang. "Got it. You go back." His classmate opened his mouth, but Xiao Lulang no longer paid him any attention. With one hand holding the bundle and the other holding the crutch, he turned around and headed back home. Gu Jiao followed behind. Gu Jiao maintained a perfect distance from him so that he would not feel too close. However, if he fell, she would be able to catch him in time. However, Xiao Lulang was very familiar with this road, and nothing happened all the way home. It was already dark, and all the doors were closed. Only Xuaningxiang came out to pour the bathwater. She was stunned at the door for a while. "Xiang, why don't you come in? What are you looking at?" Inside the room, Xuaningxiang's mother-in-law was lying on the hospital bed, and asked her in a hoarse voice. Xuaningxiang blinked in a daze and said, "No, nothing." She must have seen wrongly. How could Xiao Lulang be with that little fool? Although they were husband and wife, they were more enemies than enemies. Gu Mansion. Today, it was the first branch's turn to cook. Madame Zhou and her daughter Gu Yu brought the hot dishes to the main room and set the table. In the Gu Mansion, women did not eat at the table. Only old Master Gu, his eldest son Gu Zhonghai, his second son Gu Chonglu, and his 3 grandchildren were at the table. Old Madame Wu brought her 2 daughters-in-law and granddaughter Gu Yu to eat in the kitchen. Old Master Gu was the village chief, and he was more successful than most of the villagers who only knew how to dig for food in the fields. Most people only saw meat a few times a year, but the Gu family could eat meat twice a month. Today was the day to eat meat. Pork belly stewed with cabbage. Even the soup exuded a strong meaty aroma. But there was not much pork belly, and each person could not finish it with 2 chopsticks. Gu Zhonghai and Gu Chonglu each took a piece, but under their father's imposing manner, they did not dare to have any ideas about this bowl of meat. They turned their heads to take pickled vegetables and pickled vegetables. Old Master Gu did not eat much himself. He only took a small piece for Gu Xiaoshan and Gu Ershun, and gave the rest to Gu Dashun. Gu Xiaoshan counted carefully. There were a total of 5 pieces, and all of them were big. Why is he eating all of it? Gu Xiaoshan muttered bitterly as she ate. Gu Ershun said softly, "That's because eldest brother is a scholar. Our family depends on him." When he said this, he could not help but glance at the meat in Gu Dashuan's bowl. He was greedy. He was really greedy. But he was already used to this kind of treatment. There were so many men in the family, but only eldest brother was good at studying. This year, eldest brother was admitted to the county school, and his achievements were higher than grandpa's. TSK. Gu Xiaoshan rolled his eyes. My brother-in-law is also a scholar. Why didn't you ask him to eat meat? How is that the same? Eldest brother was admitted to the county school. How can he compare with him? My brother-in-law just did not take the exam. The 2 brothers were about to argue, but old Master Gu slammed his chopsticks on the table, and the 2 of them immediately shut up. When old Master Gu was angry, not to mention the 3 grandchildren, even Gu Zhonghai and Gu Chonglu were a little stunned. The house was eerily quiet. Second brother, have you read the book I gave you? There are annotations on it. Read it carefully. If there's anything you don't understand, ask me. The person who spoke was Gu Dashun. He was the only one who dared to speak up against old Master Gu's anger. His voice was clear and his tone was calm. He was neither fast nor slow, and he really had the demeanor of a scholar. Old Master Gu found this golden grandson pleasing to the eye, and his anger quickly dissipated. Gu Ershun was flattered and smiled. Then I'll thank eldest brother in advance. Old Master Gu had taught all 3 of his grandchildren, but only Gu Dashun passed the exam. Later on, old Master Gu could not teach Gu Dashun anymore, so he sent Gu Dashun to a private school in town. Private schools were too expensive, and the Gu family could only afford the best one. Gu Ershun dreamed of being like Gu Dashun. Old Master Gu said sternly, "Don't disturb your eldest brother these few days. He has to take the exam." Gu Ershun nodded respectfully. Got it, Grandpa. Gu Xiaoshan did not want to stay any longer. He finished his food in a few bites and left. He wanted to go out, but he could not leave through the front door of the central room or the back door of the kitchen. Madame Wu was not as easy to deal with as old Master Gu. Gu Xiaoshan decided to climb over the wall, but halfway up he was caught by Madame Lu. Gu Xiaoshan, get down here. Gu Xiaoshan was pulled down by Madame Lu. Madame Lu slapped his head and scolded in a low voice. Your grandparents are here. Do you want to die? Don't hit my head. Gu Xiaoshan said impatiently. It's so late. Why are you going out? My sister hasn't come to eat for a day. I'm going to see her. Madame Lu snorted. It's good that she doesn't come. What are you going to see? You're already married, but you still go to your maternal home every day. What's wrong with you? Gu Xiaoshan curled his lips and said, Third uncle and third aunt didn't say that before they died. My grandparents promised third aunt that my sister would take in a son-in-law from our family. That surname Xiao is a live-in son-in-law. My sister is still a part of our family. Madame Lu could not win against him, so she pinched him hard. Gu Ershun was obedient but useless. Gu Xiaoshan was neither obedient nor useless. She had given birth to these 2 children in vain. Gu Jiao bought rice and noodles at the market. She didn't expect that Xiao Lulang would also buy rice and some steamed buns. Gu Jiao went to the kitchen to heat up the steamed buns. It was Xiao Lulang who started the fire. Gu Jiao didn't argue. When she went out, the injury on her wrist wasn't serious. But she did something at the market and her wound tore. Fortunately, she felt that it wasn't safe at home, so she brought a medicine box with her and bandaged it on the spot. The two of them didn't mention the 3 steamed buns from this morning. Xiao Lulang didn't explain and Gu Jiao didn't ask. "Let's eat here. It's warm," Gu Jiao said. She was so cold that she was still shivering. Xiao Lulang hesitated for a moment, then nodded and sat down on the small stool next to Gu Jiao. It was the first time the two of them were so close to each other. They were so close that he could clearly see the birthmark on Gu Jiao's left cheek. In the past, Gu Jiao would cover it with a thick layer of makeup. But today she was barefaced and didn't hide it at all. Xiao Liulang's beautiful lips moved slightly, but he didn't say anything. Just as she wouldn't ask about his matters, he wouldn't ask about hers. They were two unrelated people, so there was no need for them to be involved. The steamed buns didn't have much taste, but Gu Jiao had been hungry all day, so she wasn't picky about it. Gu Jiao was a bit choked from eating, so she went back to the kitchen to drink some water. When she returned to the kitchen, Xiao Lulang was no longer there. There was a bag on the small stool. Gu Jiao opened it to take a look. It was osmanthus cake. Digression. __, good morning. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428286/721894448. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugu mobile reading website. Chapter 9. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of Xiao Liulang's exam. Gu Jiao woke up early in the morning. She made noodles, steamed a basket of porcelain steamed buns, and cooked a pot of wild mushroom soup. The wild mushrooms were picked on the mountain. The first time she picked them, she had already finished them. These were picked yesterday, so there were still a lot left. She planned to carry them to the market later to sell them. In fact, she also picked wood ears, but fresh wood ears were poisonous. They had to be dried before they could be eaten. While waiting for breakfast, she went back to her room to take medicine. The wounds on her wrist and the back of her head were already healed. She was almost out of medicine, but the ointment was more durable. There was still more than half of it left. On the other side, Xiao Lulang also woke up. Gu Jiao knew that he studied until late last night, so she didn't wake him up in the morning. Unexpectedly, he still woke up so early. In fact, he could have slept a little longer. The ox cart to town didn't leave so early. Gu Jiao set the table and filled half a bowl of wild mushroom soup for him. She was worried that he would go to the exam hall to find the toilet, so she didn't fill it to the brim. But Gu Jiao didn't know if it was just her imagination. But she felt that Xiao Liulang's eyes were a little bit bitter when he inadvertently glanced at her. The exam would take a whole day, so Gu Jiao filled it with steamed buns and water. After pausing for a while, she thought of something and stuffed 10 copper coins into the bag. Xiao Lulang watched her as she stuffed the copper coins into the bag. His eyes moved, but he didn't say anything. Gu Jiao handed the bag to him. "I've already paid for the carriage. I've also told the driver to send you directly to the academy." "Okay," Xiao Lulang responded. He took the bag and walked out with his crutch. Gu Jiao looked at his little crippled leg and resisted the idea of sending him to the village entrance. He probably wasn't happy about it either. When Xiao Lulang arrived at the entrance of the village, second Uncle Luo's ox cart was already parked under the locust tree. There were quite a few people sitting on it. They were all villagers who were selling their vegetables and eggs in town. When the villagers saw him, they all smiled and greeted him. Xiao Lulang was a scholar. He usually looked cold, but he didn't put on airs. Every family would come to him if they wanted to read or reply to a letter. Although Gu Dashan was also a scholar, Gu Das-hun stayed in the private school during the day and studied hard at night when he returned home. The villagers rarely disturbed him. There was one last seat on the ox cart, which should be reserved for him. Just as he was about to go up, he felt a figure flash past and block his path. The other party pressed down on the ox cart with one hand and supported another figure behind him with the other. Shunzi, hurry up. They were Mrs. Zhou and her son from the main branch of the Gu family. Mrs. Zhou blocked Xiao Luleng completely, not giving Xiao Luleng a chance to get on the ox cart. On the ox cart, an auntie said. Shunzi's mother, Luleng, came first. Gu Das-hun paused in his movement to get on the ox cart. He turned his head and looked past his mother to look at Xiao Luleng. Xiao Liulong's eyes were cold, and his expression was indifferent. Mrs. Zhou snorted indifferently. I'm going to take the exam straight. So what if he came first? Can he delay my straight exam just because he came first? Everyone in the village knew that Gu Das-hun was a promising person. He was admitted to the county school a while ago and was a scholar. They heard that he didn't even need to kneel when he saw the county magistrate. Although Xiao Luleng was a good lad, he wasn't as important as Gu Dashuan's future. If Gu Das-hun became rich, not only would he bring glory to the Gu family, but the entire Qingchuan village would also benefit from his glory. No one said a word. That. Second Uncle Luo said embarrassedly, Luleng, he is also going to take the exam. Last night, when Gu Jiao came to find Second Uncle Luo, she explained clearly to him that Xiao Luleng was going to take the exam at the academy. Xiao Liulong's legs were inconvenient, so she asked him to send him there. She even gave him 2 extra copper coins for this. Second Uncle Luo was puzzled. The Gu family's little fool, who didn't get along with Xiao Luleng, spoke and acted as if he was a different person. But before he could ask more, Gu Jiao left. When she heard that Xiao Luleng was also going to take the exam, Madame Zhou didn't take it to heart. How could Xiao Liulong's exam compare to her son's? But Gu Das-hun looked at Xiao Luleng in astonishment. You are also going to Tianxiang Academy? Yes. Xiao Luleng replied indifferently. When Xiao Luleng first came to the village, he was already a scholar. At that time, Gu Das-hun was also a scholar. Later on, Gu Das-hun passed the county-level exam, while Xiao Luleng was still a scholar. Gu Das-hun didn't think much of Xiao Luleng. You haven't been to the private school for half a year. Gu Das-hun shook his head. His meaning was obvious. Xiao Luleng couldn't pass the exam. Second Uncle Luo, who originally wanted to persuade some villagers to give Xiao Luleng a seat, silently swallowed his words. Since he couldn't pass the exam, then there was no need to trouble himself. Second Uncle Luo took out his money bag. Going to the market was 2 copper coins, and going to a slightly better place was 3 copper coins. Gu Jiao gave him 2 more, so it was a total of 5 copper coins. While Second Uncle Luo counted out the copper coins and returned them to Xiao Luleng, Gu Das-hun was pushed onto the ox cart by Madame Zhou. But before he could sit down, a bone-thin hand suddenly reached out from behind him, grabbed his collar, and pulled him down from the ox cart. Gu Das-hun was 2 years older than Xiao Luleng. He was already 19 this year. He was a sturdy young man, but he staggered and almost fell to the ground. Madame Zhou was scared to death. She quickly went to help Gu Das-hun. Who is it? She cursed and turned around. Then she saw the thin and small Gu Jiao with everyone else. Gu Jiao's eyes were cold, revealing an unruly chill. Everyone was stunned. Gu Jiao, are you crazy? Madame Zhou was wondering who was so bold, but it turned out to be this little fool. Take the copper coins back. Gu Jiao ignored Madame Zhou. She only looked indifferently at Second Uncle Luo, whose hand was frozen in midair. She frowned impatiently. I booked the ox cart last night. If you want to go back on your word, then refund everyone's money. What do you mean? Madame Zhou asked. Literally, Xiao Luleng can't get on the ox cart today, so no one is allowed to get on the ox cart, Gu Jiao said. What right do you have? An auntie snorted. Gu Jiao slowly took out a sickle from behind her back. Because I'm a fool? Fools only do stupid things? Everyone's faces turned pale when they saw the sickle. Madame Zhou, who wanted to rush up and pull Gu Jiao's hair, was too scared to go forward. No one understood what was wrong with Gu Jiao. Why would she make things difficult for the Gu family, who had always been close to her, for Xiao Lulang, whom she had long disliked? Even Xiao Liulang's eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment. If you want to invite old Master Gu, then hurry up and go, Gu Jiao said as she blew on the sickle that she had polished until it was shining. Madame Zhou really wanted to go, but she was stopped by Gu Dashun. It was useless to reason with a fool. It would be bad if the exam was delayed. Although Xiao Lulang would also miss the exam, Xiao Lulang couldn't pass the exam in the first place. He was different. In the end, second Uncle Luo thought of a way to let Madame Zhou spend money to buy one of the villagers' vegetables. That villager gave his seat to Gu Dashun. Gu Jiao didn't care whose seat Gu Dashun bought. However, in order to prevent any accidents on the way, Gu Jiao followed along with the sickle on her back. There was no extra seat for her in the ox cart. She dragged her thin and small body and walked for more than 10 miles on foot, safely sending Xiao Lulang to the examination room. Digression. Lulang, why are you so good to me? Jiao Jiao, you're beautiful. Lulang. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896422826/7214729. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikago mobile reading website. Chapter 10. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. After Xiao Lulang entered the examination hall, Gu Jiao carried her basket and left. She was going to the market to sell the wild mushrooms and the dried wood ears in the basket, and to do something else while she was at it. Tianxiang Academy's reputation spread far and wide. There were many people who came to take the exam. Some were locals, while others were foreigners like Xiao Lulang. Everyone who took the exam had a recommendation letter from a village school, county school, or government school. They were then separated into their respective examination halls. Because of their different grades, Xiao Lulang and Gu Dashun were assigned to different examination halls. Xiao Lulang was in the last row. Tianxiang Academy's entrance was very high. Most of the people who came to study were at least elementary scholars. It was not easy to become an elementary scholar these days. For Gu Dashun to pass the exam before he was 20 was already very rare. Xiao Lulang was only 17. He was the youngest among all the candidates. He was also the most handsome one. Unfortunately, he was a cripple. The candidates looked at him strangely, but it did not last long. They began to fill in the exam papers. The poetry exam in the morning, and the classics exam in the afternoon. The candidates who were able to come here had a lot of knowledge in their stomachs. It was not difficult for them to compose a few poems on the spot. The difficult part was the classics exam in the afternoon. The classics exam questions were all from the original texts of the 4 books and 5 classics. The candidates had to strictly use the 8-part essay. The 8-part essay consisted of breaking the question, accepting the question, beginning, middle, back, and binding. Metaphors were not allowed. One had to use the tone of a saint. The annotations could only come from the Chung and Zhu school of thought. It was very restrictive for the candidates. In addition, the questions were very difficult. After a day of examination, the candidates' faces were all green. When Xiao Lulang came out, his classmates had already been waiting outside the examination hall for half an hour. Lulang, here. He waved at Xiao Lulang. Xiao Lulang walked over with his walking stick. His classmate said, I just heard a lot of people complaining that the scripture questions are tricky. Sai, it's your bad luck. The questions this time were set by the dean himself. If you hadn't taken the exam with me, it wouldn't have been so difficult. It's all that wretched woman's fault. Xiao Lulang glanced at him and frowned. His classmate continued. Oh right, she didn't bully you these few days, right? I was so worried that you wouldn't be able to come today. Indeed, he almost couldn't make it. Xiao Lulang paused. Suddenly, as if he had sensed something, he raised his head and looked ahead. The examination had just ended, and there was an endless stream of people on the street outside the academy. A slender little figure was leaning against the wall, with a small basket on his back. His arms were crossed in front of his chest, and he looked a little absent-minded. From time to time, people walked past her. Because of her face, all kinds of gazes were thrown at her, but she did not care at all. She was not angry, not annoyed, not shy, not embarrassed. Soon his classmate saw Gu Jiao and frowned. Ah, why is she here? Don't tell me she's here to find trouble with you. Tell me honestly, did you run away from home today? Actually, Xiao Lulang wasn't sure if Gu Jiao was here to find him. He only knew that she was leaning against the wall, and it was obvious that she was waiting for someone. Probably because there were too many examinees coming out. It finally attracted Gu Jiao's attention. Gu Jiao turned her head and looked over. Among the sea of people, she saw the handsome young man. She smiled and walked toward Xiao Lulang. The examination is over, she said. Xiao Lulang nodded. Have you been waiting for a long time? Not really. Gu Jiao pulled her little ears and said. Didn't you go to the market? Why didn't you go home? Xiao Lulang saw that her basket was filled with wood ears and wild mushrooms, so he knew that she would go to the market. But the market would close at noon at the latest. I happen to have something to do nearby, Gu Jiao said. What could have happened to you? Her classmate rolled his eyes. However, Gu Jiao's words reminded him of something. He finished class early today and went to the medical center. He found that Dr. Zhang was there again, and he even saved someone who was about to die. Are you sure it's Dr. Zhang? Xiao Lulang was slightly stunned. Dr. Zhang also suffered some superficial injuries from the medical dispute last time. In fact, Dr. Zhang was not the one who saved the murderer's family member. He was completely implicated. But in the end he was provoked, so he said that he would never come back again. Her classmate said firmly, Of course. I saw that person being carried in with my own eyes. His body was covered in blood, his neck was crooked, and he was not breathing. Other than Dr. Zhang from the capital, who else could save him? Gu Jiao silently looked at the little ant on the ground and didn't say a word. Her classmate continued. Dr. Zhang can even save that kind of person, so he must be able to cure your leg. You don't have to worry about this. I'll ask when Dr. Zhang is going to make a house call. When are you going? Gu Jiao suddenly asked. Her classmate looked at her with disdain. Why should I tell you? Gu Jiao was speechless. They had dinner in town. Her classmate insisted on bringing Xiao Lulang to try the Yangchun noodles near the academy, saying that it had the taste of their hometown. After dinner, Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao took a mule cart back to the village. This time, Xiao Lulang asked for a carriage. Night had completely fallen. There were no oil lamps in the carriage, but the bright moonlight seeped in. Gu Jiao sat across from Xiao Lulang. She stretched out her long legs and stretched her toes. She bought new shoes. They weren't embroidered shoes like the daughters of rich families, but a pair of cheap cloth shoes. They were pure black with no extra color, but surprisingly, they looked very good on her feet. She looked very obedient as she played with the shoes. Her eyes were like broken stars. The mule cart was still parked at the entrance of the village. After the two of them got off the cart, Gu Jiao followed behind him at a distance. The news of Gu Jiao falling out with Gu Dashun because of Xiao Lulang had already spread throughout the village. Xue Ningxiang specially waited at the door. In the end, she saw the two of them walking in the night, one in front and one behind. Could it be that her eyes weren't playing tricks on her last time? Were these two really together? Idiot Gu. A voice broke the silence. Xue Ningxiang turned and went back into the house. Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang stopped outside their house and turned to look at the young man who was walking quickly towards them. It was Gu Erzhun from the second branch of the Gu family. Gu Erzhun and Gu Shaoshun were both born of the Lu family. However, compared to his own twin brother, Gu Erzhun had always been closer to Gu Dashun, his cousin. Gu Jiao only glanced at him indifferently before looking away. She unlocked the door and entered the house with Xiao Lulang. Gu Dashun strode over and stood at the door with his hands on his hips. He said angrily, "Idiot Gu, I think you've turned the sky upside down. How dare you treat eldest brother like this? Do you know that you almost delayed eldest brother's exams? You even embarrassed eldest brother in front of the entire village." Don't listen, don't listen. Gu Jiao stepped over the threshold and was about to close the door. Gu Ershun saw that she was ignoring him and became angry. He stepped into the house and held the door with one hand. "You dare? Grandfather told me to come find you. Hurry up and kowtow to eldest brother and admit your mistake. Otherwise I'll beat you to death." Gu Jiao impatiently pulled her little ears. "Annoying. Did you hear that? If you don't make things clear today, don't even think about." He was halfway through his words. Gu Jiao lifted her leg and sent him flying out with a kick. Digression, only patient with beauty Xiao? Carrot. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/721074484. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 11. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Ershun was stunned by Gu Jiao's kick. Although his status in the Gu family was not as high as Gu Dashuan's, he was still spoiled by the Lu family. She could not bear to let him do farm work, and only let him study in the house like Gu Dashun. Only the heavens knew if he was studying, but it was true that his body was delicate. He lay on the ground and did not move for a long time. What was wrong with this little fool today? She dared to kick him? He really wanted to rush up and give her a slap, but he would not admit that Gu Jiao's kick had scared him. Just you wait." He left these harsh words and ran away while clutching his stomach. Gu Jiao locked the door and turned to enter the house. She immediately saw Xiao Lulang standing in the living room and looking at her. His gaze was full of scrutiny. She thought for a moment and said calmly, "He fell out of the house by himself." Xiao Lulang. The Gu family had been waiting for Gu Ershun to bring Gu Jiao back for a lecture, but only Gu Ershun came back. His face was covered in dirt, and he was clutching his stomach, as if he had been beaten up by someone. The Lu family hurried forward. "Ershun, what happened to you? Where's that girl?" Gu Ershun exaggerated what had happened in front of Gu Jiao's door. "I kindly advised her to come over and make things clear. She wanted to apologize to eldest brother, but she didn't listen and even kicked me. I treated her like a younger sister and did not fight back." The Lu family's scalp exploded when she heard this. Little wench. Raised by a whore. She even kicked her own brother. In contrast, the Zhou family was much calmer. That girl even dared to touch Dashun. What more a mere Ershun? But she still had some doubts in her heart. This girl was a little strange recently. Preposterous. Mrs. Lu was angry that her son was slapped. She rolled up her sleeves and slapped Gu Xiaoshun. "You go. Teach that little b*tch a lesson. Stand up for your brother." "I'm not going." Gu Xiaoshun rolled her eyes at Gu Ershun. "Who knows what he did?" Gu Ershun said confidently, "I didn't do anything. I'll talk to her nicely." Who knew that she would kick him? "I think she's a fool, a lunatic and a jinx." "Who are you scolding?" Gu Xiaoshun stood up like a ruffian. Gu Ershun hurriedly hid behind Madame Lu. "You're still speaking up for that little jinx. Who's your real brother?" Mrs. Lu was so angry that she wanted to hit Gu Xiaoshun. But old man Gu was there, so she didn't dare to hit his grandson. She turned her head and gave her man a look. "Say something." How could Gu Chonglu dare to say anything? No one asked that girl when she didn't come to eat for a few days, but now she knew how to criticize him. He didn't want to go. It wasn't because he felt injustice for Gu Jiao. Moreover, he was the most cowardly of the three brothers. When Old Third was in trouble, he was by Old Third's side. If he had pulled Old Third in time, perhaps Old Third wouldn't have died. But the flood was too fierce. He was scared and left Old Third behind. He didn't dare to tell anyone about this. Only Old Man Gu knew. He had always felt a little guilty about the third branch. Changhai. Old Man Gu called his eldest son. Go over there. Gu Changhai hesitated for a moment and said, Father, Jiao'er's brain isn't working well. I think we should just let this matter go. If it gets out of hand, the villagers will gossip and say that we're mean to Old Third's flesh and blood. Mrs. Lu was furious. How can we just let it go? You didn't hurt Deshun, did you? Didn't you see how badly Ershun was kicked? Gu Ershun clutched his stomach, feeling wronged. The little Jinx's kick was really not light. He was still in pain. Old Man Gu's face darkened and he hesitated. Gu Changhai said softly, Father, if this matter gets out of hand, it won't be good for Deshun's reputation. In the end, the one who got kicked was Gu Ershun, not Gu Dashun. Gu Dashun was just pushed by Gu Jiao in front of everyone, so he felt a little embarrassed. But Gu Dashun wasn't injured, and he didn't miss his exams. It wasn't worth it to ruin his good reputation just to vent his anger. Gu Dashun also reacted at this time. Scholars valued reputation the most. Otherwise, the Gu family wouldn't have forced Xiao Lulang to submit. He couldn't be muddle-headed on this matter. He said gently, Forget it, grandfather. Younger sister is stupid. If we argue with her, it will make us seem unreasonable. Mrs. Lu was so angry that she fell backwards. Why didn't you say this earlier? If you really don't argue, you should have stopped Second Shun when he went to catch her. Old Man Gu was very satisfied with his eldest grandson's words. You're a reasonable person. You should learn from your eldest brother. Don't argue with a girl all the time. You're losing your status as an elder brother. The last few words were naturally directed at Gu Ershun. And you don't go out and cause trouble. You'll ruin your eldest brother's reputation. Gu Xiaoshun didn't escape. Gu Xiaoshun didn't take it to heart at all. Gu Jiao didn't know that the Gu family was in a mess because of her. She made a small fortune in town today, and bought a lot of things. Of course, she also used up a lot of things. She was short of 1 anesthetic, 2 blood-clotting agents, sutures, and other medicine for external injuries. Gu Jiao took the salt, star anise, fennel, and some other ingredients to the kitchen. She boiled water while she was at it. Finally, she used the firewood in the stove to light a brazier. She gave the brazier to Xiao Lulang. It was close to the 12th lunar month, so the nights were still very cold. She could sleep early, but Xiao Lulang had to read by the light. In addition, his injured leg couldn't catch a cold. The door was left ajar. Gu Jiao knocked on the door. It's me. Xiao Lulang responded. Gu Jiao pushed the door open and entered. Xiao Lulang was bent over the table, copying a book. There was only a small oil lamp beside his hand. The light was very dim. Gu Jiao put the brazier on the ground and walked over to adjust the oil lamp to the brightest. She thought for a moment, then went to her room to grab the oil lamp. It's too dim. It hurts my eyes. Xiao Liulang's eyes moved. You can use the brazier. I won't be cold after I sleep, Gu Jiao said. After a pause, she seemed to think of something and said, Can I come to your room to warm up before I sleep? Xiao Lulang nodded. He sat up straight and continued to copy the book at hand. Gu Jiao knew that he earned money by copying books for others. Although he didn't earn much, he still earned 2 taels a month. However, the Gu family wanted to take 1 tael from him. They called it paying for the food of the original host. The original host didn't know that she paid for her meals at the Gu family. She thought that the Gu family was really good to her. To be fair, Xiao Lulang only had a bad attitude towards the original host. This was because the two of them didn't have a good relationship. It wasn't that Xiao Liulang's character was bad. Gu Jiao smiled and said, You don't have to give the Gu family any more money. I'll eat at home in the future. Xiao Liulang's hand that was holding the brush paused. Gu Jiao took the mattress and clothes that hadn't dried yet. Her movements were very light, and her breathing was very quiet. If it wasn't for Xiao Luleng glancing at her several times, he probably wouldn't have noticed that there was another person in the room. When the clothes were done, she suddenly said to him before leaving, "Right, what's your classmate's name?" "Feng Lin," Xiao Luleng said. Xiao Luleng copied books until midnight. When he got up, he found that Gu Jiao had finished drying his clothes and neatly stacked them on the chair. He picked up the clothes and was about to put them in the cabinet when he saw a new pair of shoes at the bottom. Digression, couple shoes get. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_826/72061328. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 12. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. Ever since there was no nightlife, Gu Jiao woke up earlier than a chicken every day. Before dawn, she carried a bucket of water out the door. She went to the ancient well at the entrance of the village to fetch water. The villagers all woke up early. At this time, there were already a few aunts and young wives fetching water by the ancient well. Everyone was stunned when they saw her. The news of Gu Jiao causing a ruckus on the ox cart had spread throughout the village. Everyone knew that she had pulled Gu Das Hun off the ox cart. She was a fool after all. When her illness acted up, she even harmed her own cousin. But why did she come to fetch water so early in the morning? The little fool never did any work and would only wake up when the sun was high up in the sky. Gu Jiao ignored everyone's gazes and calmly went to the ancient well. She put the bucket down to fetch water and carried it home with a shoulder pole. Everyone only came back to their senses when she walked far away. Were their eyes playing tricks on them? The little fool just now didn't look foolish at all. She looked very good when she fetched water and walked very well. After Gu Jiao finished fetching water, she steamed a basket of meat buns. She bought a piece of cured meat yesterday and soaked it in water before going to bed. The excess saltiness was soaked out, but the flavor of the cured meat was just right. The smell of the meat buns wafted out. The dog next door was craving for them. Gu Jiao took 2 buns up the mountain. Most of the wood ears had been picked by her, but there were still a lot of wild mushrooms. In fact, the villagers could see these ingredients when they went up the mountain to cut firewood, but most people didn't dare to pick them. First, they couldn't tell the difference between poisonous mushrooms. Second, they didn't know how to remove the poison in fresh wood ears. After Gu Jiao finished picking the mushrooms, she went directly to the market. The eastern part of the town was a relatively wealthy and prosperous area. The best medical centers and restaurants were there. The yamen and the academy were also there. In contrast, the western part of the town was much more complicated. There were markets, workshops, gambling houses, brothels, all sorts of things. Gu Jiao arrived at the market and randomly found an open space to set up a stall. The woman next to her still remembered her and smiled at her. "You're here. Do you still have the mushrooms you picked last time? My grandson likes it. Can you give me some more?" The auntie sold sweet potatoes. The price of sweet potatoes was not comparable to the price of the mushrooms on the mountain. However, Gu Jiao did not care. She nodded and handed the basket to her, letting her take it herself. The auntie grabbed 2 handfuls and put in 2 big and red sweet potatoes for her. Not long after, the aunt on the other side also came over and said with a smile, Can I exchange some radishes with you? I want to stew some for my family too." Gu Jiao nodded nonchalantly and signaled her to do it herself with her eyes. Therefore, the aunt used her 2 big radishes to exchange for Gu Jiao's 2 mushrooms. After that, a few more hawkers came and one after another used their own side dishes to exchange for Gu Jiao's mushrooms. This scene was seen by the two men in the tea stall diagonally across the street. Shopkeeper Wang, are you talking about her? The one who asked was a well-dressed man in his early 30s. He had strong facial features and a tall figure. A middle-aged man in his 40s next to him said, "Second master, it's her." The second master looked at Gu Jiao and knit his brows. Such expensive mountain products, but she exchanged them with such cheap vegetables. Is she stupid? Someone even put rotten food inside, but she didn't say anything. She's really stupid. Shopkeeper Wang was speechless. He always felt that she wasn't stupid. She just didn't care. Are you sure you didn't make a mistake? The second master asked. When she saved the patient, I was right next to her. I saw with my own eyes that she sewed up that deep and long wound. I won't make a mistake. Shopkeeper Wang gestured as he spoke. What Shopkeeper Wang didn't say was that he had actually seen her twice. The first time was at this market, so he knew that she would come here to do business. How old is she? The second master knit his brows. No matter what, he couldn't believe that she was the doctor that brought the dead back to life. She was too young and too poor. She also had that birthmark on her face. But Shopkeeper Wang wouldn't lie to him. Last time the medical disturbance had a great impact. Not only did they offend Dr. Zhang, they also made the main hall of the capital very dissatisfied. The second master's position was in jeopardy. He urgently needed a doctor to support the situation. The second master said, "You go and ask her where her master is. I'm willing to hire her master for a large sum of money." This girl's medical skills couldn't have come from nothing. Hiring her master would be more reliable than hiring her. Shopkeeper Wang also felt that this method was feasible. He turned around to ask, but unexpectedly, just as he took a step, a young man fell down. He happened to fall in front of a chicken stall, scaring away all the chickens in the cage. "Aya! My chicken! My chicken!" The old man selling the chicken hurriedly went to catch the chickens. The scene was in chaos. Shopkeeper Wang and the second master's eyes fell on the young man's body. They were both stunned. The young man had symptoms of chest tightness, cyanosis, and shortness of breath. These symptoms were almost the same as the symptoms of the patient who had died in their medical hall. But it was more aggressive and urgent. That patient had at least made it home. But this young man was about to suffocate to death. This was an incurable disease. Even if their medical hall's doctor came, they wouldn't be able to cure him. At this critical moment, a small and thin figure came out of the crowd. She arrived in front of the young man and tore open his clothes. Then she took out something and stabbed it into his chest. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Was she trying to kill him? The next second, Gu Jiao pulled out the needle and a small stream of air leaked out. Everyone saw that the young man who was about to suffocate to death had his chest suffocated, and his breathing returned to normal. Shopkeeper Wang was dumbfounded. Do we still need to ask her master? Ask my ass. If their medical hall had such a doctor, that person wouldn't have died that day. The second master decisively pushed Shopkeeper Wang aside and stood up. He personally walked over to Gu Jiao. "You're saying that you want me to be your medical hall's doctor?" After hearing the second master's words, Gu Jiao fell into deep thought. "Which medical hall are you from?" The second master smiled and said, "In Clear Spring Town, only our Tongfu Hall can be called a medical hall." "Oh." She rubbed her chin. The second master thought that the other party wouldn't agree so easily. He was already prepared for the other party to put on airs. Who would have thought that Gu Jiao would say, "You came just in time. I was just about to go find you. I can cooperate with Tongfu Hall, but I'll say it first. I'll only see patients once a month." Once? The second master was stunned. "No, you're agreeing? You're not going to be pretentious? Raise the price? No, once. She'll only see patients once a month." "I'm very busy," Gu Jiao said seriously. "Busy? Selling vegetables?" The corner of the second master's mouth twitched as he looked at her basket. To be honest, he really wasn't satisfied this time. However, doing business was all about gradual progress. First, enter his Tongfu Hall's door. Later, When they were familiar with each other, they could slowly haggle. The second master said, "Okay. Once it's just once." Gu Jiao stared at him as if the next thing was the most important thing. "Also, I have another condition." After class, Feng Lin rushed to the medical hall without stopping. After the medical disturbance incident, the medical hall's business was a bit bleak. The clerks were listlessly arranging medicinal ingredients in the lobby. "Is Dr. Zhang here?" Feng Lin stopped a clerk and asked. The clerk said, "Dr. Zhang returned to the capital." "Then when will he come again?" Feng Lin asked politely. "I'm not sure," the clerk said. "Can you help me ask?" "My friend's leg has been injured for half a year. Only Dr. Zhang can cure him." Feng Lin persevered. The shop assistant looked at him impatiently. "To be honest, Dr. Zhang won't be coming again. If you really want to find him for treatment, you can go to the Huichun Hall in the capital to find him. However, his consultation fee is very expensive." "How much?" Feng Lin asked. 10 taels. "What? 10 taels?" Feng Lin was stunned. Even if he and Xiao Lulang worked together, they still wouldn't be able to come up with that much money. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896422826/720094664. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. Chapter 13. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Feng Lin left in disappointment. Just as he was about to walk out of the lobby, he heard a polite voice in front of him. "Young master, are you here to see an illness?" "Ah." Feng Lin was stunned for a moment and looked at the other party. It was a young man in luxurious clothes. His aura was somewhat strong, but his attitude was very gentle. Feng Lin did not recognize him. "You are." The staff recognized him and wanted to salute him, but they were stopped by the second boss with a look. "Oh, I'm from Rejuvenation Hall." The second boss said pleasantly, "Young master, are you feeling unwell?" Feng Lin shook his head. "No, I'm not sick. I'm here to see my classmate." "May I know your name, young master?" "My name is Feng Lin." Feng Lin cupped his hands. "My surname is Hu." The second boss returned the salute. "So it's Dr. Hu." The other party said that he was from the medical center, so Feng Lin naturally thought that he was a doctor here. The second boss did not correct him. He smiled and said, "Then may I ask where your classmate is feeling unwell?" Feng Lin sighed. "His leg was injured half a year ago. We've found many doctors, but none of them can cure him. I think that only Dr. Zhang from the medical center can cure him. But I heard that Dr. Zhang will never come to the medical center again." "Who said he won't come?" The second boss coughed lightly and said, "If he comes, he'll come tomorrow." The consultation fee. Fixed price 100 copper coins. Cough. All the staff in the room choked. Feng Lin also choked. 100 copper coins? Is it expensive?" The second boss blinked and hurriedly said, "I said it wrong. It's 10 copper coins." Feng Lin. The staff. No matter how stupid Feng Lin was, he knew that it was very expensive to see a doctor. Not to mention Dr. Zhang from the capital, even a barefoot doctor from the countryside could not be dismissed with 10 copper coins. "Didn't you say that Dr. Zhang's consultation fee is 10 taels?" he asked doubtfully. The second boss's expression did not change. "It's cheaper to see a doctor. Cheaper, by so much. Our medical center, business is not good, and it's off-season." Feng Lin. The employees were speechless again. Feng Lin immediately went to the village and told Xiao Lulang about the consultation. The consultation fee is only 10 copper coins, and the cost of the herbs will be calculated separately. Their business is not good now, so I guess the cost of the herbs won't be too expensive. The business of the medical center had indeed been affected, but it was still hard to believe that it had suddenly become so cheap. Feng Lin excitedly said, "I've asked Manager Wang about it, and Manager Wang said the same thing. This matter can't be fake, so just wait patiently. I happen to be on holiday at the end of the month. I'll go with you." Even the date had been set. It seemed like it was true. 3 days later, the results of the exam came out. Gu Dashun came in second place. This time, the examinees came from all over the world. There were hundreds of them, and there was no lack of children from wealthy families among them. They had hired teachers since they were young, and their learning conditions were much better than Gu Dashun's. Even so, Gu Dashun was still able to come in second place. It was really a great honor for the Gu family, especially since the questions this time were personally set by the headmaster. The entire academy was spreading the news that the headmaster was going to come out of seclusion and recruit a personal disciple from this batch of examinees. Gu Dashun felt that his chances were very high. How did Lulang do in the exam? Old Man Gu asked. Gu Dashun smiled. He also got in. He also came in second place, but it was from the bottom. There were a total of 100 examinees this time, and Xiao Lulang was ranked 99. Thinking about how he had left Xiao Lulang so far behind, Gu Dashun could not help but feel proud. However, he said, he didn't go to a private school for half a year. He studied hard at home. It's already very good that he could get such results. He studied hard for so long and almost didn't get in. It's clear that studying requires talent. In this aspect, you are much better than Lulang. It was rare for Old Man Gu to say so much. Originally, he did not dare to have too many expectations for Gu Dashun, but now that the results were out, he felt that Gu Dashun would definitely get in next year's fall quarter examinations. Old Man Gu was very happy. He sent his second son to town to get 2 pounds of pork belly. Today, it was the second branch's turn to cook. Madame Lu knew that most of the pork belly she brought out would go into Gu Dashun's stomach, so she secretly hid 2 pieces in a jar. "Mother, you hid the meat." Gu Xiaoshun rushed in with sharp eyes. Madame Lu was so scared that she trembled and almost knocked the jar over. She turned around and hit Gu Xiaoshun. "Keep your voice down. What are you shouting for?" Gu Xiaoshun raised his eyebrows and said, "I want to eat meat." "I won't give it to you." Mrs. Lu turned her back and held the jar tightly. Gu Xiaoshun snorted. "If you don't give it to me, I'll tell Grandpa and Grandma that you hid the meat." "You..." Madame Lu raised her fist in anger. Other people gave birth to sons to enjoy life, but she gave birth to sons to make herself angry. Madame Lu also knew that Gu Xiaoshun would really do something like that. She painfully opened the jar and cut a small piece for him. Gu Xiaoshun did not even have the chance to taste it before it was gone. "Why did you only give me half a bite? There are 2 big pieces in the jar." "That's for Erzhun." Of her 2 sons, only Erzhun was willing to study. Madame Lu hoped that Erzhun would be successful in the future, so that she could benefit from him. She could not count on Xiaoshun. If he did not come back to squander money in the future, she would be praying for Buddha. Gu Xiaoshun wanted to give some meat to his sister, but he couldn't really snatch his mother's jar. So when his mother was not paying attention, he opened the lid, grabbed a few steamed buns, and ran away. Little beast. Madame Lu was furious. Steamed buns were also good food. Usually only Gu Dashun can eat steamed buns. They only eat Korean noodles. Madame Lu was so angry that she picked up a stick and chased after him. However, Gu Xiaoshun ran away quickly and disappeared. Gu Xiaoshun ran to his sister's place in one breath. His hand was scalded by the steamed buns. "Sister." He rushed into the kitchen, but he suddenly smelled something and froze. He sniffed. "It smells good." "Sister, what are you cooking?" "Pheasant." She sold 2 of the 3 pheasants last time. She raised the remaining one for a few days and killed it today. "What are you holding?" Gu Jiao looked at his hand. "Steamed buns." Gu Xiaoshun lowered his head. He wanted to give his sister something delicious to eat. Who would have thought that his sister would eat chicken? These steamed buns were a bit inferior. Gu Jiao took a bowl and asked him to put the steamed buns in. She also brought a basin of cold water. Put your hand in. Oh. Gu Xiaoshan did not ask why and obediently did as he was told. His hand did not hurt as soon as it was soaked in the water. Eat here, Gu Jiao said to him again. Huh. Gu Xiaoshan was surprised. I left a bowl for you. I was thinking about how to send it. Now that you're here, I don't have to make a trip. Gu Jiao said as she opened the cupboard and took out a bowl of chicken. She poured it back into the pot. Gu Xiaoshan looked at the bowl of chicken. He knew that his sister did not say those words just because he came. She really did leave a bowl for him. There was a whole drumstick in the bowl. He saw it all. Gu Xiaoshan suddenly felt a little sour at the tip of his nose. He came behind Gu Jiao, bent down, and pressed his forehead against Gu Jiao's back. He rubbed against it and said, Sister, how can you be so nice? Tell me, could it be that you're actually my biological mother? Gu Jiao. Digression. Good morning everyone. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/719666249. HTML Genius memorized this website's address. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 14. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Jiao finally understood why the previous host and Gu Xiaoshan could play together. The two of them had the same level of intelligence. Gu Jiao made a pheasant stewed with mushrooms today. Although the pheasant was delicious, the meat was firmer than poultry. She used a large iron pot to stew it for 4 hours before it was tender. She also made a refreshing salad of black fungus and shredded radish. The main dish was white rice and corn pancakes baked on the iron pot. Although Xiao Lulang only scored last, Gu Jiao still attached great importance to it. That was why she killed the pheasant to celebrate Xiao Lulang. But she would not say this out loud. Go and call your brother-in-law to eat. She took off the pancake and said to Gu Xiaoshan. Yes. Gu Xiaoshan ran off. Xiao Lulang had just finished copying a book. When some outstanding examinees became a high scholar or a grand scholar, the books and notes they used would be borrowed by the bookstore and then copied and sold to other examinees. These books were more expensive than normal books, but there were still many examinees that rushed over. Xiao Liulang's writing was very pleasing to the eye, so the books he copied sold the best. Brother-in-law, it's time to eat. Gu Xiaoshan poked her little head in from the crack in the door. It was good to have thick skin. She had clearly bullied him half to death a few days ago, but now she was so intimate. Xiao Liulang's expression was as cold as before. He did not show any joy at Gu Xiaoshuan's change in attitude. Of course, he also did not use Gu Xiaoshuan's past ignorance to give Gu Xiaoshan a hard time. Gu Xiaoshan suddenly felt that she was quite comfortable with her brother-in-law. The three of them sat down to eat. Gu Xiaoshan picked up a piece of mushroom first. In his impression, his sister didn't cook, so this was his first time tasting his sister's cooking. He didn't expect it to be so delicious. He picked up another piece of chicken. Heavens! It was so delicious that he wanted to cry. Gu Jiao scooped out 2 big chicken drumsticks, one for Xiao Lulang and one for Gu Xiaoshan. The chicken drumstick was also stewed, and the meat was juicy. Gu Xiaoshan felt like she was going to ascend to heaven after taking a bite. Xiao Lulang was very calm. But if Gu Jiao knew how much he used to eat, she probably wouldn't think so. The two of them quickly finished their bowls of rice. When Gu Xiaoshan went to scoop the rice, he saw that Xiao Liulang's bowl was also empty. He said, "Brother-in-law, I'll scoop a bowl for you too." Okay. Xiao Luleng did not refuse. He didn't know if he didn't refuse his kindness, or if he didn't refuse the call of brother-in-law. Gu Xiaoshan quickly went to get more rice. This was the most comfortable meal Gu Xiaoshan had ever eaten. The taste was good, and the atmosphere at the table was good. Although his sister and brother-in-law didn't say anything, he could say something. The three of them were eating happily. After the meal, Xiao Luleng helped Gu Jiao clean up the dishes, and Gu Xiaoshan went to the backyard to chop firewood. After entering the kitchen, Xiao Luleng suddenly put a money bag next to Gu Jiao's hand. Gu Jiao looked at him strangely. Household expenses, he said. Xiao Luleng gave Gu Jiao 2 taels of silver. He earned it by copying books for more than a month, and he only had about 10 copper coins left. But he was almost done copying the book, and he should be able to sell it in town in 2 days. Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows and looked at the money bag on the stove. She took it and put it away. After cleaning up the kitchen, Gu Jiao went to the entrance of the village to fetch water. Gu Xiaoshan took her shoulder pole. Sister, you rest. I'll do this kind of rough work. He carried the shoulder pole and left. Gu Jiao wanted to stop him, but she couldn't. At this time, everyone was eating in the house, and no one came out to fetch water. Gu Xiaoshan occupied the ancient well by himself. While he was fetching water, 2 strong men rode their horses towards him. They stopped beside Gu Xiaoshan without saying anything. The 2 men dismounted from their horses. Gu Xiaoshan felt a biting cold murderous aura. He was a little ruffian in the village, and he immediately saw that the 2 men practiced martial arts. All the ruffians in the surrounding villages were no match for them. Are you from this village? One of the strong men asked. Yes. What can I do for you? Gu Xiaoshan asked in a daze. We are here to look for someone. The strong man showed a broken umbrella and asked fiercely. Have you seen this umbrella before? Why hadn't he seen it before? That was his sister's umbrella. Gu Xiaoshan felt bad. Have you seen it before? The strong man narrowed his eyes dangerously. I. Gu Xiaoshan stuttered. What did his sister do? Why did such a scary person come to look for her? Boy. The strong man stretched out his rough hand and gently pressed Gu Xiaoshan's shoulder. I advise you to tell the truth, or I will ask someone else. This man was so strong that he couldn't move half of his body. Gu Xiaoshan gritted his teeth. It's mine. The strong man was stunned. He exchanged a look with his companion. The strong man withdrew his hand and asked suspiciously. Your umbrella? Are you sure? Gu Xiaoshan's legs were actually starting to go soft, but he stubbornly said. Of course I am sure it's my own umbrella. There is a mark on the handle of the umbrella with the word Xiao written on it. I carved it myself. The last few words were true. He was bored at that time, so he carved his name on his sister's fan, but he only knew how to write the word Xiao. Of course, the strong men knew that there was a word on the handle of the umbrella, so when he said this, most of the strong men believed him. So, the person who went to the back of the mountain that day was you? It was me. The person who stepped on our master's face was also you. Yes. Our master's arm was fixed by you. Yes. It was all me. The needle on his butt was also pricked by you. Gu Xiaoshan almost staggered and fell. Sister, my dear sister. Why did you go and prick people's buttocks for fun? Gu Xiaoshan took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Yes. It was all me. If you don't believe me, you can go and ask around. Other than me, Gu Xiaoshan, who else would do such a thing? Gu Xiaoshan felt that he was going to be beaten to death here today, but the pain he imagined did not come. He carefully opened his eyes to take a look and saw the 2 burly men take a big step back and bow deeply to him. Benefactor. We finally found you. Gu Xiaoshan. Sister. Gu Xiaoshan ran into the kitchen as if he was reincarnated. I think I'm in trouble. Lower your voice, your brother-in-law is studying. Gu Jiao made a shushing gesture at him. Gu Xiaoshan told Gu Jiao everything that happened at the entrance of the village with a long face. Sister, what should we do now? What benefactor? Are they trying to blackmail me? So that's what happened. Gu Jiao remembered what happened on the mountain that day and nodded thoughtfully. You didn't ask who they were. Gu Xiaoshan drooped his little head. I forgot to ask. Have they left? Gu Jiao asked. Not yet. Gu Xiaoshan cried. Gu Jiao put down the broom. Okay, you wait for me here. Sister, don't go. Gu Xiaoshan pulled her. It's okay. Gu Jiao smiled and walked towards the entrance of the village. Gu Xiaoshan did not know what his sister said to the two men, but they left obediently. The next day at dawn, a carriage drove into the village and stopped outside the Gu family's gate. An elegant middle-aged man came down from the carriage. The first branch was cooking today, so Madame Zhou and Zhou Yue got up early. Zhou Yue carried a basket and went to the field to cut the pigweed. When she opened the door, she saw a middle-aged man about to knock on their door and a big carriage behind him. Zhou Yue had never seen this before and was stunned. The middle-aged man said with a pleasant face, "Excuse me, is this Gu Lizheng's house?" Zhou Yue turned and ran into the house. Mother, someone is looking for grandfather." The one who came out was Gu Zhonghai. Gu Zhonghai was the eldest son of the old man Gu. He occasionally went to the government office with the old man Gu, so he was more knowledgeable than most people in the village. The other party's background was not small. Gu Zhonghai politely said, "My father is washing up, you are." The middle-aged man smiled. "I am the steward of Tianxiang Academy. Today, I came here to deliver the admission document to young Master Gu." Didn't they go to town to get the admission document by themselves? How could they trouble the academy to deliver it personally? Sure enough, Deshun did too well in the exam. Gu Zhonghai felt his back straighten. He proudly shouted into the house, "Deshun, the academy is here to deliver the admission document to you." Digression. Award-winning Q&A. Is it Gu Dashuan's admission document? Yes. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/7192432. HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 15. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. For Gu Dashun to be able to study so well, in addition to being very smart, he was also very hardworking. He woke up earlier than Madame Zhou and Gu Yue and was currently studying in his room. Hearing his father call him, he put down his book and walked out. "Father, what's wrong?" As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the middle-aged man outside the door. He vaguely felt that the other party's face was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen him before. But he was sure that the other party's clothes and bearing were not ordinary. He didn't know why he had come to their house. "Father, what did you say just now?" "I was studying and didn't hear clearly." He turned to Gu Zhonghai and said. Gu Zhonghai pointed at the middle-aged man and smiled. "This is the steward of Tianxiang Academy. He came to deliver your admission document." Admission document? Gu Dashun had the same doubts as Gu Zhonghai. The academy had already informed them that the results would be released 3 days after the exam, and the admission document would be released on the 7th day. They had to go to the east gate of the academy to get it. There were still 3 days before the 7th day. Why did he come out already? And delivered himself to their door? The middle-aged man also reacted at this moment. He smiled and said, "So there is another candidate in your house. But I'm afraid that Master Gu has misunderstood. The document in my hand is not for this candidate, but for another young Master Gu." Gu Zhonghai said strangely, "Only Deshun is a candidate in our house." The middle-aged man maintained a decent smile. "I didn't quite understand what I said just now. May I ask, is young Master Gu Xiaoshan here?" The father and son were stunned. Gu Zhonghai found his voice after a while. You must be mistaken, right? Gu Xiaoshan didn't take the exam. Gu Xiaoshan was a scoundrel. Scoundrel. He wouldn't take the exam even if he had 8 lifetimes. Even if he took the exam, he definitely wouldn't be able to. The middle-aged man smiled warmly. I didn't make a mistake. It is Gu Xiaoshan. He was personally recommended by my master. He entered the school without taking the exam. Gu Zhonglu, who had just woken up, heard his son's name. He walked over and said, What's wrong with Xiaoshan? Did he get into trouble again? Bastard. I'll go beat him up right now. Gu Chonglu had just woken up and looked really sloppy, but the middle-aged man's smile didn't change at all. My master accidentally fell down the mountain. Fortunately, young Master Gu saved him. In that case, this matter is settled. I'll have to trouble the 2 masters to hand over the admission documents to young Master Gu. He will enter the school in 4 days. Our family can't afford 2 sets of tuition fees, Gu Zhonghai suddenly said. Gu Chonglu was still confused. He didn't know what was going on. The middle-aged man looked at Gu Dashun and then at Gu Zhonghai. This time, there was no smile in his eyes. It's written on the document that all tuition fees are waived. In addition, I've also prepared the books and school uniform. Please pass them to young Master Gu. His own father and second uncle did not notice, but Gu Dashun did. The other party addressed him as this examinee, but addressed Gu Xiaoshan as young Master Gu. Moreover, he got second place in the exam, but the other party didn't even know that this was his house. Gu Dashuan's expression didn't look too good. He wanted to ask the other party and the master's identity in detail, but the middle-aged man handed a mahogany brocade box to Gu Chonglu and left directly in the carriage. Gu Chonglu was still in a daze. Eldest brother, that person. Did he say that Xiaoshan can also go to school? The whole family knew about this during breakfast. When did you go up the mountain? Who did you save? Why didn't you tell us? Madame Lu asked a series of questions. How would I know? I just saved him. His sister didn't allow him to tell others, so he could only take the blame. But he didn't expect the result to be like this. How could he go to school? Since there's no tuition fee, let Xiaoshan go to school. It'll save him from causing trouble outside all day long, Gu Chonglu said. If he leaves, who will do the work in the field? Madame Zhou was dissatisfied. It was true that they didn't need money, but if there was one less person to work in the field, they would be the ones tired out. Gu Dashun looked at Madame Zhou. Mother, it's a good thing to have more scholars in the family. After school, I can help out with the work. How can we let you do it? Madame Zhou vetoed. Her son was born to study, not to dig for food in the field. Madame Lu didn't like to hear this. So her son was a noble, and her son was a lowly one? However, Gu Xiaoshan was indeed useless. If second Shun was stopped from studying, Madame Lu would argue back. It's just, Xiaoshuan's temperament needs to change. At least, he needs to be able to sit still like second Shun. Gu Dashun spoke again. His words struck a chord in everyone's heart. Yes, with Gu Xiaoshuan's poor temperament, could he study well? They didn't want to offend the teacher and implicate Gu Dashun. How about, we let second Shun study? Madame Lu asked. Second Shun was smarter than Xiaoshan, and also more disciplined than Xiaoshan. If he were to study, he would definitely be able to become a scholar. In fact, Madame Zhou still didn't agree. She felt that second Shun only looked studious. In fact, there were several times when De Shun explained problems to him, but he didn't learn at all. He wasn't cut out for studying. Madame Lu was whimsical and kept dreaming of becoming a scholar's mother with second Shun. But this time, the men in the family didn't object, so Madame Zhou didn't say anything. During the whole process, no one asked for Gu Xiaoshuan's opinion. 3 days later, Xiao Luleng and Gu Dashun each received their admission papers and uniforms. The books were prepared by himself. Gu Xiaoshan knew that he didn't have any, so he specially prepared new books for him. But now they were all Gu Ershuan's. Gu Jiao carried a small basket and sent Xiao Luleng to town. As usual, she first sent him to the academy, then walked to the market. Xiao Luleng changed into a brand new uniform. Gu Jiao had seen other people wear this uniform, such as Feng Lin and many other students from the academy. But no one was like Xiao Lulang. He was tall, his clothes were whiter than snow, and his features were picturesque. He was like a stranger, like a jade, and a peerless young master. After a while, Gu Jiao's gaze fell on his feet. Seeing that he was wearing the new shoes she bought for him, Gu Jiao curved her lips. "Does it fit?" Gu Jiao asked. "Yes." Xiao Lulang nodded slightly. Gu Jiao handed him the crutch and went out with him. When they arrived at the village entrance, second Uncle Luo's ox cart was already waiting. There weren't many people going to town today. Other than the two of them, there were only Gu Dashun and Gu Ershun. The two of them also put on their uniforms. To be honest, the members of the Gu family weren't ugly. In fact, Gu Dashun was better looking than most of the men in town. But when he stood next to Xiao Lulang, he was immediately reduced to dregs. Xiao Lulang didn't do anything, but he was like a painting, exuding an elegant and scholarly aura. Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang had told Gu Xiaoshan that he had saved someone from the academy. Thus, the two of them knew that the person going to the academy today should be Gu Xiaoshan. However, when the two of them saw Gu Ershun, who was wearing a uniform that was obviously one size too small, appear on the ox cart, they didn't show much surprise. It was as if they had expected the Gu family to do such a shameless thing. Gu Jiao sneered. Xiao Lulang rummaged through his bundle and realized that Gu Jiao had stuffed him with another copper coin. This time it was 20. Gu Ershun rolled his eyes at the two of them. The ox cart quickly arrived near the academy. "Stop here. We'll walk there ourselves," Gu Dashun said. Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao sat at the entrance of the academy. After Xiao Lulang entered the academy, Gu Jiao carried the basket and went to the market. Digression: you have to believe in Queen Jiao's strength. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896422826/718845757. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 16. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that cannot be found online are all available here. The students who entered this year were split into 4 classes. In order of results, they were Tianzi Class A, Tianzi Class B, Earth Class A, and Earth Class B. Gu Dashun got second place and naturally got into Tianzi Class A. Xiao Lulang got second last and got into Earth Class B. As for Gu Xiaoshan, this backdoor entrant, he was also assigned to Earth Class B. Originally, Gu Dashun was wondering what kind of important person Gu Xiaoshan had saved, but in the end he just got into the worst class. It seemed that the other party didn't have much of a say in Tianxiang Academy. "That's Earth Class B, you can go." Gu Dashun gave Gu Ershun directions, then turned and headed towards Tianzi Class A. Gu Ershun had dreamed of going to school like Dashun since he was young. Now that he finally got his wish, he was overjoyed. But thinking that he was in the same class as Xiao Lulang, he was a little unhappy. Although he didn't know what Tianzi Class A and Earth Class B meant, but Xiao Lulang got second last. What kind of class could he be in? When he got back, he had to find the master that Gu Xiaoshan had saved and get him to transfer him to Gu Dashuan's class. Gu Ershun thought this as a matter of course, not feeling that there was anything wrong with this idea. He looked at the students with disdain, and was about to walk in with his chin raised. Suddenly the teacher spoke. "Who are you?" Gu Ershun said. "I'm a new student, Gu Ershun." The teacher heard this and didn't look at him anymore, calmly saying, "Where did you come from? There's no such person in the class, get out." Gu Ershun was stunned. All the students looked at him. Gu Ershun's face flushed red. I'm. Has Gu Xiaoshan arrived?" The headmaster interrupted him. The classroom was very quiet. Has Gu Xiaoshan arrived yet? The headmaster asked again. The students began to whisper among themselves. Gu Xiaoshan and Gu Erzhan were obviously related, but the headmaster didn't even ask. The students began to whisper among themselves. When they looked at Gu Erzhan again, there was a hint of thought-provoking in their eyes. Gu Erzhan could no longer maintain his composure. He turned to look for Gu Dashan, hoping that Gu Dashan would be able to solve this problem for him, but unexpectedly, Tianzi Class A had already started their lessons. Gu Erzhan had nowhere to go. He was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. After the lesson ended, Gu Dashan was called out by the headmaster of his class. Headmaster Chen. Gu Dashan bowed respectfully. Headmaster Chen thought for a moment and asked him, "Do you know about your brother's enrollment?" Gu Dashan nodded. "I know. A steward of the academy personally sent my brother's enrollment document to the village. May I ask, what happened?" Headmaster Chen frowned. Gu Xiaoshan was enrolled but Gu Erzhan came. "Do you know about this?" Gu Dashan looked at Headmaster Chen's expression and felt that something was wrong. His eyes flashed and he lowered his eyes. "I don't know. I left first. Those two are my second uncle's brothers." "I understand. You can go to class first," Headmaster Chen said. "Headmaster, my brother." Gu Dashan looked at Headmaster Chen with an uneasy expression. Headmaster Chen waved his hand. "It's okay. It's your second uncle's family business. It has nothing to do with you. Go to class. You did well in the exam this time. The headmaster thinks highly of you." Gu Dashan went to class. He looked at the corridor. Gu Erzhan was timid. He would not talk nonsense. After Gu Jiao went to the market, she went directly to her previous stall. Everyone seemed to know that she was going to sell mountain goods here. They had already reserved a seat for her. Gu Jiao brought freshly picked mushrooms and sun-dried black fungus today. "Can this be eaten? Didn't you say it was poisonous?" The woman selling sweet potatoes asked while holding a piece of black fungus. "I sold it. It's edible," Gu Jiao said. After being exposed to the sun, the black fungus no longer had tannic acid and porphyrin. It would not cause any poisoning. The woman selling sweet potatoes believed her. "Can I exchange sweet potatoes with you?" Gu Jiao nodded. "Yes." More than half of the black fungus and mushrooms in the basket were exchanged by the nearby vendors with side dishes. The remaining small part was really sold to passers-by. Gu Jiao grabbed the basket with one hand. The heavy basket was filled with radishes, sweet potatoes, winter melons, and pumpkins. However, she easily grabbed it. Everyone was stunned as they watched her walk out of the market. Gu Jiao did not go back to the village. Instead, she went to a gray alley. Xue Ningxiang also came to the market. Her mother-in-law's legs were cold again. She did not have money to go to the medical center in town. She could only come to the market to buy some herbs. After buying the herbs, she was about to go back. However, she accidentally saw a familiar figure. She looked at the person to make sure that she was not mistaken. She could not help but feel more confused. Why is she here? Why did she go to that kind of place? Behind that alley was not a good place to go. Xue Ningxiang knew that there were gambling houses, brothels, and illegal workshops. Xue Ningxiang could not figure out why Gu Jiao went there. Was she deceived, or Xue Ningxiang frowned and hurried to catch up? However, as soon as she passed through the alley, Gu Jiao disappeared. Opposite her was a big gambling house. On the left was a brothel. On the right was something unknown. From time to time, shrill screams could be heard. Some people fell out with bruises all over their faces. After that, they vomited blood and fell to the ground, unable to get up. Xue Ningxiang was frightened. She turned around and wanted to go back. However, she was blocked by a few ruffian men in the alley. "Yo, where did this little girl come from? She's so pretty. Isn't that right? Play with us for a while," the two men in front of Xue Ningxiang said as they stretched out their hands. Although the two behind did not make a move, they also smiled wretchedly. The four of them surrounded her so tightly that not even a drop of water could pass through. Xue Ningxiang wanted to scream, but one of the men covered her mouth. It seemed that this was not the first time that these four people had done this. They cooperated very well. One of them covered her mouth while the other two held her up. Then, everyone began to touch her all over. Xuanningsiang could not scream or move. She fell into despair. At this moment, a cold voice came from behind them. "Hey, move aside." The few of them were having fun. When they suddenly heard a woman's voice, they were secretly happy. Did someone send themselves to their door? However, when they turned around, they saw a little girl with red spots on her face. Not only was her face ugly, but she was also skinny. It was obvious that she was not growing well. The few of them immediately lost their interest in pressing her down. The man who covered Xuanningsiang's mouth shouted, "Move aside." I said move aside. Her voice was not loud and her tone was careless. However, for some reason, everyone's heart was filled with a strange chill. It was still the man who covered Xuanningsiang's mouth. He smiled disdainfully and let go of Xuanningsiang. He walked towards Gu Jiao. He threw a punch at Gu Jiao. Xuanningsiang could not bear to watch and closed her eyes. Crack! Ah! The sound of bones breaking and a pitiful cry shocked everyone. Gu Jiao did not give anyone a chance to react. She grabbed the second man's collar and fiercely threw him against the wall. He fainted on the spot. The remaining two people threw themselves at her, but before they could even touch the corner of her clothes, she kicked them in their vitals. They lay on the ground and could not get up. However, at this moment, the first man who fell to the ground suddenly struggled to get up. He grabbed a brick and threw it at the back of Gu Jiao's head. Digression. Good morning, everyone. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896422826/7184240. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bkuj mobile reading website. Chapter 17. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more interesting content. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. Ah! Xuanningsiang screamed. Gu Jiao turned around and kicked the man away. Xuanningsiang was dumbfounded. She didn't understand how Gu Jiao did it. After beating the man up, Gu Jiao left with the basket on her back. She didn't even look at Xuanningsiang. It made people think that she only beat them up because they were in her way. Xuanningsiang recovered from her shock and stood up while trembling. You wait. Gu Jiao continued to walk forward. Xuanningsiang wanted to chase after her, but her clothes were torn by the men. If she walked out like this, they would see her naked body. She was so anxious that tears came out of her eyes. Gu Jiao stopped in her tracks and fidgeted with her hair. She took out her cotton-padded jacket from the basket and threw it on Xuanningsiang. Xuanningsiang was stunned. She looked at the jacket and then looked at Gu Jiao. Aren't you cold? Give it to me if you don't want to wear it. Gu Jiao reached out her hand. Wear it. I'll wear it. Xuanningsiang quickly put on the jacket. Gu Jiao's jacket was a little thin, especially around the chest area. It made Xuanningsiang panic. Xuanningsiang bent down to pick up the herbs on the ground. She whispered to Gu Jiao, "Just now, thank you." She didn't expect to encounter this kind of thing. She also didn't expect Gu Jiao to save her. Her feelings were a little complicated, but no matter what, her gratitude came from the bottom of her heart. It was also at this moment that she was sure that Gu Jiao was different from before. Are you not stupid anymore? She asked cautiously. Gu Jiao didn't answer her. She's still a fool. Otherwise, why would she save him? He had bullied her in the past. Gu Jiao. Suddenly, Xuanningsiang saw blood dripping from Gu Jiao's left hand. You're injured. Gu Jiao said indifferently. It's not my blood. She wasn't lying. It really wasn't hers. However, she thought of something and wiped the blood off with a handkerchief. Xuanningsiang turned around and looked at the 4 bastards on the ground. They didn't bleed, So where did the blood on this girl's hand come from? What was she doing just now? The two of them left the alley. Gu Jiao looked at the sky. Xue Ningxiang suddenly grabbed her sleeve and looked at her pitifully. Can I go back to the village with you? Gu Jiao frowned. She didn't want to go back to the village. Xue Ningxiang felt that it was reasonable for Gu Jiao to refuse. After all, she didn't have a good relationship with Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao had saved her because they were from the same village. There was no need for her to take her back to the village. Xue Ningxiang silently withdrew her hand. Gu Jiao said indifferently, I have to go to the academy first. Xue Ningxiang's eyes lit up. She raised her head and asked, Can I go with you? Gu Jiao didn't say anything. She turned around and walked towards the east of the town. Xue Ningxiang tried to follow her. When she saw that Gu Jiao didn't chase her away, she was happy and followed her. Xue Ningxiang had her feet bound. Women with bound feet walked slowly. Gu Jiao scratched her head in annoyance, but she still stopped and waited for her. When the two of them arrived at the academy, classes had just ended. Xiao Lulang walked out with his bag of books. He was stunned when he saw Gu Jiao in the alley across from him. He walked over with a normal expression and asked, Are you also nearby today? Yes. Gu Jiao answered vaguely. Xue Ningxiang was shocked. The distance from the market to here was at least 7 or 8 li. This. How could this be called nearby? Xiao Lulang finally saw Xue Ningxiang beside Gu Jiao. A trace of surprise flashed through Xiao Liulang's eyes. No matter how hard he racked his brains, he couldn't figure out how the two of them were together. Furthermore, Xue Ningxiang was wearing Gu Jiao's clothes. Second Uncle Luo's ox cart was already waiting in the alley. He had told him in the morning to pick them up at 5 in the morning. The three of them got on the ox cart. Gu Jiao sat in the middle of the two of them. Xue Ningxiang used to have a good impression of Xiao Lulang, but after that terrible incident, she still had lingering fears of men. She didn't even greet Xiao Lulang. Xiao Lulang didn't care about Xue Ningxiang's attitude towards him. He just felt that it was a bit strange, but he didn't ask. Gu Jiao gave her cotton-padded jacket to Xue Ningxiang. She only had a thin jacket on. She didn't feel cold when they were on the road, but once she sat down, she felt a bit cold. Xiao Lulang looked down at his school uniform and couldn't help but hesitate. If he gave it to her, their relationship didn't seem that good. If he didn't give it to her, she would freeze. Just as he was hesitating, he saw Xue Ningxiang weakly lean towards Gu Jiao. She used her body to warm Gu Jiao. Xiao Lulang. After the ox cart passed through the alley, they saw Gu Dashun waiting there. Gu Ershun had already been driven home, so Gu Dashun was the only one waiting for the ox cart. Gu Dashun didn't care about Xue Ningxiang on the ox cart. He only looked at the expressionless Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang. When he thought of how calm they were in the morning, he suddenly felt that they had already guessed that this would be the outcome from the beginning. But they didn't say anything. They just watched as Gu Ershun was driven out. They even almost caused him to be suspected by the teacher. Whose idea was it? Xiao Liulang's? Or this little fool's? A light breeze blew. Gu Jiao gently parted the hair covering her face. She didn't mind revealing the birthmark on her face. Gu Dashun had never seen Gu Jiao like this before. No, he had actually seen it before. It was on the morning of the exam. She had pulled him down from the ox cart. At that time, she was just as calm as she was now. But at that time, he was in a fit of anger and didn't notice. What exactly happened to this little fool? She suddenly changed her personality. She suddenly stopped coming to the Gu residence for meals, and suddenly got along with Xiao Lulang. Are you thirsty? Xue Ningxiang took off the water bag from her waist and handed it to Gu Jiao. Even Widow Xue, who always didn't get along with her, became her friend? Gu Dashun frowned deeply. The ox cart arrived at the village. Gu Dashun jumped off the ox cart. Gu Jiao didn't fight with him. She just sat on the ox cart and looked at him with a faint smile. Remember to send Xiaoshan to school tomorrow. Gu Dashun clenched his fists. After returning home, Gu Jiao felt particularly cold today. Her hands and feet were ice cold. At night her period came. People in the countryside didn't have enough nutrition, so their periods came late. She was already 14 years old, but this was her first time having her period. She didn't know if it was because she had fallen into the water a few days ago, but the cold air was too strong. In addition to the wind today, her stomach hurt very badly. She had been in the organization for many years and was already used to all kinds of pain, but she couldn't tolerate this kind of pain during her period. Xuaningxiang came to return Gu Jiao's clothes. As soon as she entered the room, she saw Gu Jiao sitting on a chair with a pale face. She immediately asked, "What's wrong?" "It's nothing," Gu Jiao lightly said. This woman who could kill 4 men with one punch during the day was now so weak that she couldn't even stand up. How could it be nothing? Xuaningxiang looked at her hands covering her stomach and said, "Ah, you're having your period?" Gu Jiao didn't have the energy to pay attention to her. Xiao Lulang heard the commotion in the room. He walked over and asked, "What happened?" Gu Jiao didn't say anything, but Xuaningxiang said, "Her period came. It hurts very badly. Do you have brown sugar at home? Boil a bowl for her." Xiao Lulang suddenly froze. Xuaningxiang didn't think too much about it. She thought that since the two of them had been married for half a year, they must have already consummated their marriage. There was nothing that couldn't be said. Digression. Good morning, everyone. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/717950075. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 18. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. Xiao Lulang awkwardly went out. There was no brown sugar at home, and the market was closed at this time. If he wanted brown sugar, he could only borrow it from someone else's house. Xiao Lulang never borrowed anything from others, let alone the brown sugar that women drank when they had their period. He stood under the eaves and his cheeks were a bit hot, but after taking a few deep breaths, he still got up and went to the east side of the village. Aunt Zhang. He knocked on the Zhang family's door. Aunt Zhang opened the door and saw him. She smiled and asked, "It's Lulang. It's so late. What's the matter?" "I came to borrow some brown sugar." Xiao Lulang pretended to be calm as he said. In the countryside, brown sugar was a rare thing. Most people didn't have it. Aunt Zhang's daughter-in-law had just given birth and was in confinement. Xiao Lulang heard her ask Uncle Luo to bring her brown sugar from the market. "Why do you need brown sugar? Is the Gu girl pregnant?" Aunt Zhang asked. Xiao Liulang's cheeks were hot again. No. "Ah, then you're having your period? I didn't expect Lulang to be so caring." There were rumors in the village that the couple had gotten back together. Aunt Zhang was a bit skeptical at first, but now she believed it. Aunt Zhang went back to the house and filled a bowl with brown sugar for him. She joked, "It's a good thing that a woman has her period. It means that she'll be able to give birth to your baby soon." Xiao Lulang didn't know how he left. He brought the brown sugar water to Gu Jiao's room. Xuaningxiang had already gone back. Gu Jiao was lying on the bed, feeling a bit weak. He walked into the room and put the brown sugar water on the table. "Drink it first. Call me if it's not enough." After he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Even though he walked very quickly, Gu Jiao's sharp eyes noticed that his ears had turned red. Gu Jiao chuckled and drank all the brown sugar water in the bowl. She didn't expect the brown sugar water to be so effective. Her body warmed up, and she felt much more comfortable. She quickly fell asleep. That night, she had another dream. She dreamed that she woke up late the next day. Xiao Lulang went out alone and met Gu Xiaoshan at the entrance of the village. The two of them went to the academy together and entered the same class. Gu Xiaoshan was not a stingy person. He slept through the entire first morning of class, and left a very bad impression on others. When it was time to split the dormitory, no one was willing to stay with him. Only Xiao Lulang stood up. The two of them were assigned to the westernmost dormitory. That room had been in disrepair for a long time. As soon as the two of them entered, the roof collapsed. Xiao Lulang was seriously injured and Gu Xiaoshan was also slightly injured. The next day, Gu Jiao really woke up late. Because of her previous experience, Gu Jiao was much calmer this time. Xiao Lulang wasn't there. He should have gone to school. She went to second Uncle Luo's house to ask. She learned that Xiao Lulang went to the academy with Gu Xiaoshan. She decided to go to the academy. Second Uncle Luo's ox cart went to town. She walked there and arrived at the academy at noon. Gu Xiaoshan was sleeping on the table until the students in front of him poked him with a pen. "Hey, it's time to eat." Gu Xiaoshan rubbed his eyes and sat up. "Ah, it's time to eat?" The surrounding students looked at the creases on his face from the books and all burst out laughing. Who in the class didn't know that Gu Xiaoshan got in through connections? He got in through the back door. It was just that no one expected this guy to be completely ignorant and incompetent. Even the worst class in Tianxiang Academy didn't have such a loafer. Everyone looked at Gu Xiaoshan with a trace of disapproval. Soon their class teacher Zhang came over. Teacher Zhang said, "Today we'll be splitting the dormitories. For people to a room. You guys discuss among yourselves, and then come to me to get your keys." There were 26 people in Earth Class B, which meant that each room would only have 2 people. Everyone quickly split up. Xiao Liulong's deskmate had 2 friends in the class who had known each other since childhood. He called Xiao Lulang along. Gu Xiaoshuan's side was much more bumpy. No one was willing to share a room with him, so he was successfully left alone. There was also a student who had applied for leave yesterday and had just started school today. Because he didn't know everyone, he was also left alone. But it was obvious that this student also disliked Gu Xiaoshan. I don't want to share a room with him. Then I'll stay by myself." Gu Xiaoshan crossed his arms and looked up at the sky. Of course he couldn't stay by himself. That student who was left alone wouldn't want to stick to the wall and sleep, right? Xiao Lulang said indifferently, "I'll switch with you." That student was moved to tears and thanked him several times. He was just short of calling him dad. Gu Xiaoshan grinned. "Brother-in-law, you don't have to live with me. It's not that I don't want to live with you. I just feel that." Xiao Lulang took the keys from teacher Zhang's hands and walked away expressionlessly. Gu Xiaoshan smacked his lips and followed reluctantly. All the good rooms had been picked, and the one that was left was the most remote one. The two of them carried their bags and walked forward. Halfway through, a servant ran over with sweat all over his forehead. "Which one of you is Xiao Lulang?" Xiao Lulang stopped and turned around to say to him, "I am." The servant panted, "Your family is here. She's waiting for you outside, saying that it's urgent. She wants you to go see her immediately." Xiao Lulang was an orphan, so the only person who could be considered as his family was her. Xiao Lulang paused and said to Gu Xiaoshan, "It's your sister." "My sister is here?" Once he heard that it was Gu Jiao, Gu Xiaoshan became energetic. "Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and find my sister." The dormitory was actually only a few steps away. It wasn't impossible to see her after putting the things in, but she said that it was urgent. Xiao Lulang quickened his steps. He carried his bag and walked with Gu Xiaoshan to the entrance of the academy. There were people coming and going on the street, and she was wearing inconspicuous clothes, but Xiao Lulang still recognized her at a glance. She stood in the cold wind and her small face was a bit red. Perhaps because she didn't like noise, she frowned from time to time. "Sister. Sister." Gu Xiaoshan excitedly ran towards Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao glanced at him and quickly looked away to see Xiao Lulang behind the crowd. Xiao Lulang was also looking at her. When their eyes met, Xiao Lulang was startled. Gu Jiao smiled. Xiao Lulang averted his gaze and walked towards her in large strides. "Sister, why are you looking for us?" Gu Xiaoshan asked. "Oh, it's nothing," Gu Jiao said casually. "I just came to have a meal with you." After she finished speaking, she saw Xiao Lulang looking at her suspiciously. She adjusted Gu Xiaoshuan's collar and said seriously, "It's your first day at school. I'm worried about you." The two went to a nearby noodle restaurant and had 3 bowls of Yangchun noodles. It was the same restaurant where Feng Lin took Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao to eat last time. Xiao Lulang didn't enjoy the food very much. Gu Jiao said, "Isn't this noodles from your hometown? You don't like it? It's not as good as yours." These words came out of his mouth. After saying it, Xiao Lulang was stunned. Gu Jiao was also stunned for a moment. Then she looked at him and smiled. "Okay, I'll cook for you tonight." Gu Xiaoshan had a big appetite. After he finished 1 bowl, he wanted to eat another bowl. But for some reason, he suddenly felt full. "What did I eat to make me full?" "Digression, Guzi, you ate my food. What do you think?" The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428226/7175387. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.